Chapter 1052. Zhuo Jingxi's breathing became more and more rapid, and her face became redder and redder. She no longer cared about being reserved, and hugged Qin Guang tightly. She screamed hysterically, "You bastard! You've really given me such a big surprise without me noticing. Do you know how much of a genius you are? I even think that Einstein and Newton are just SOSO. You actually did this for me." Towards the end, she was almost choking up. Chen Guang, on the other hand, was embarrassed. What kind of genius am I? I risked my life to learn this in the world in the cup. Because of this unlucky photocatalyst, this baby now owes a debt of 1.46 billion yuan. 2 years later, I might even die. Don't be like this. It's actually not that tiring. I really don't think it's that hard. I didn't deliberately learn it for you, Xiao Sisi. I can read 10 lines at a glance, but I didn't think that I would learn it like this. Chen Guang never thought that his skin could be so thick. He felt that ever since he became a master of acting, it was as if a whole new world had opened up to him. Zhuo Jingxi looked at him with hazy eyes. No, don't say it like that. I know you just want to help me. You're doing it for my own good. It's really unbelievable. You look average and lazy in class, but in the end, your talent in this area is unprecedented. You don't even know how much I admire you now. I really love you to death. After saying that, she suddenly leaned forward and kissed Qin Guang's lips hard. Teacher Zhuo was fooled badly. His invincible picking up skills were so strong that even Qin Guang blushed. How could I not know how much you admire me? This is the effect I want. He looked at the clock on the wall without batting an eyelid. Damn, another 2 hours had passed. According to the theory that every minute was worth 1,000 gold, he had lost as much as 8,000 gold. It was a huge loss. We'll talk about the 5 godly formulas tomorrow. Didn't the old man just want to roll in the sheets? Why was it so difficult? Photocatalyst coaxing a girl. The old man admired himself for it. That little Cece, you see, we're already at this point, shouldn't we? However, Zhuo Jingxi forcibly controlled her emotions and slapped away his demonic claws. Wait a minute, you just said you have it? Did you come up with a new formula in your head? Tell me about it. Qin Guang, damn it, the old man really wanted to die. What the hell did I say just now? Can't I pretend to be pretentious tomorrow? I regret it so much that my intestines are in knots. Chen Guang kept a straight face and looked at Zhuo Jingxi with a pair of dead fish eyes full of resentment. His gaze seemed to be saying, "You disobedient little baby, are you done for today? Can we please stop for a while?" Zhuo Jingxi, on the other hand, had no idea how powerful it was. She was still immersed in incomparable excitement. She acted coquettishly and shook Qin Guang's arm. Come on, tell me about it. This was the aftereffect of successfully pretending to be pretentious. She was too mesmerized. As an industry insider, Zhuo Jingxi had completely forgotten how impossible it was to come up with a photocatalyst formula out of thin air in such a short period of time. Chen Guang's resentment soared to the sky, almost blowing off the ceiling of the hotel. However, he really could not dissuade Zhuo Jingxi. Forget it. I'll first write the formula to solve the problem of 16-membered ring macrolides for you to see. However, the old man is not in a good mood right now and needs a little encouragement. Zhuo Jingxi was not wearing any clothes anyway. She puffed out her chest and said, "Here, put your left hand here and write with your right hand, okay?" Chen Guang nodded in satisfaction. That's great. 5 minutes later, Zhuo Jingxi looked at the super complicated formula that filled the entire page. Her face was flushed with passion, but she was also confused. I don't understand. What are you doing? Photocatalyst? How do you synthesize this? This isn't a compound structure that should appear on Earth at all. Chen Guang was also stunned. He had only thought about pretending to be pretentious, but he had forgotten that although his 5 god-level formulas were theoretically the limit of modern technology manufacturing, the level of knowledge had completely surpassed the current level of modern technology. Just like gravitational waves, before it was discovered, many people knew of its existence, but there was no evidence at all. This gravitational wave was Schrödinger's cat. It could exist or not. Chen Guang had not worried about this very serious problem before. He did not think that if teacher Zhua did not understand his formula at all, how would she make it? He did not have the time to do it himself. The 2-year deadline was like a death trap for him. This was King awkward. Chen Guang began to panic. He braced himself and said, "Let me explain it to you?" Zhuo Jingxi nodded blankly. She was even more embarrassed than Chen Guang. She was Chen Guang's teacher, a senior genius doctor at Gokyo University, and a potential rookie who had achieved level 1 in Prince's Laboratory, the world's top scientific research institution, within half a year. However, I couldn't understand the new formula that my student had come up with on the spot after spending half a year of self-study. That's too much, my friend. You're really too much. No matter how much of a genius you are, there should be a limit, right? What kind of intelligence does it take to build such a complex supernova photocatalyst structure out of nothing in such a short period of time? Are you really human? Or is it that the one living in your body is actually a highly intelligent alien race that has advanced enough technology to travel through time and space and travel through wormholes? Are you the inheritor of the universe's level 10 civilization who came to help the people of Earth? This does not make sense at all. How can a human's thinking be so fast and accurate? In a situation that completely exceeds the current level of knowledge, you were able to instantly deduce such a complex formula. How terrifying is your memory and computing power? Is the structure of your brain equivalent to the sum of the computing power of all human computers? Or is there no difference between time and space to you? Did you complete the theoretical advancement in another plane of time? Or, in other words, the you standing in front of me is just a carrier of your physical body, just a small part of your physical body to facilitate my understanding and recognition. And your real body is actually as large as the solar system, a level 10 civilization's cosmic life form that exists as a force field ripple or a pure energy body. You used an energy body as large as the entire solar system to complete the calculation? The more Zhuo Jingxi thought about it, the more terrified she became. This was also her fault. She was a researcher at the top of the pyramid, and the scientific and technological concepts she came into contact with were already at the leading level in the world. Although astronomy and the theoretical research of extraterrestrial life were not her specialty, she would often discuss it during her free time at work. Her imagination was already quite wide, and now that she was like a galloping horse galloping thousands of miles away, she had no idea where she had run off to. Chen Guang's left hand did not stop moving. He was happily talking, but when he saw Zhuo Jingxi's extremely strange gaze, he felt goosebumps all over his body. "Why are you looking at me like that?" He stopped his explanation and asked anxiously. Zhuo Jingxi reached out her right hand and grabbed Chen Guang's face. She brought her eyes closer and carefully looked at him. "Tell me honestly, who are you? Are you Chen Guang? No, which planet are you from? Which galaxy?" Chen Guang almost choked to death on his own saliva. "Stop messing around, be serious." Zhuo Jingxi was unmoved. She stared at Chen Guang's eyes, as if she wanted to find another soul in them. She said, "I'm very serious, very serious." Chen Guang's left hand exerted more force. "Then listen carefully. Listen to Teacher Chen, I'll tell you about photocatalysis. Classmate Zhuo, please correct your attitude. Don't worry about how I came up with these things. Anyway, I just know it. If I say that it was completely based on intuition, you can understand it that way. Anyway, when I finished reading your paper, a lot of indescribable halos and streams of consciousness suddenly appeared in my mind. I can't describe that mysterious feeling at all. It was as if all the knowledge I had been learning was completely uncontrollably emerging in my mind. I seemed to be thinking at the time, but I didn't realize it at all. When I suddenly woke up, the formula was already in my mind. At this time, the expression on Chen Guang's face had a trace of longing, but also 30% calmness and 30% confusion. He almost prostrated himself in admiration. He had unknowingly created a new field of scientific research. Metaphysical research. Of course, Zhuo Jingxi still felt that it was unbelievable. Normal people wouldn't believe it. But other than that, she couldn't find a more reasonable explanation. She stared blankly at Chen Guang for 5 minutes, constantly convincing herself. It wasn't until Chen Guang's left hand was becoming more and more unrestrained that she finally accepted Chen Guang's metaphysical research explanation. Facts spoke louder than words. No matter how he did it, he had already done it, and it was clearly displayed in front of her. Although it was impossible to verify it now, according to previous experience, if Chen Guang felt that it was useful, then it should be 80% to 90% correct. This couldn't be the result of someone else preparing it in advance. Prince was a well-deserved global leader in this field. If even Prince couldn't understand the formula, then it really exceeded the current level of human technology. If someone had the ability to develop this, how could it be unknown? Other than Chen Guang's own metaphysical explanation, there was really no other way to think of it. Zhuo Jingxi sighed. She squinted her eyes and continued to look at the super complicated formula that was written all over the paper. She said, "Okay, Professor Chen, continue. I'm listening." Chen Guang nodded with satisfaction. He enjoyed it very much. The fingertips of his left hand gently moved. "That's a good girl. Chen Guang, don't be like this. I can't concentrate." Dreams were plentiful, but reality was harsh. An hour later, when Chen Guang had only written 1/5 of the formula, Zhuo Jingxi held her head and complained that she had a headache. "You stop writing. I can't understand it at all. This is too beyond my knowledge. It's not just me. Any of the world's top photocatalysts would be the same. This is a whole new set of theory and architecture. My God, room temperature, no damage, a structure more stable than gold, super high efficiency, and most importantly, it can be activated by visible light. And its adaptability to light wavelengths is extremely wide. I can't understand its principle. Even if you explain it to me, it's like listening to a book from heaven. So far, I haven't even seen a deduction that is close to it. You're standing at a height that ordinary researchers like us can't understand at all. You're basically the same as Tesla, at least 50 years ahead of this era." As Zhuo Jingxi spoke, she shook her head desperately. She felt that her head was about to explode. Chen Guang looked at her and felt that he was about to explode too. Chapter 1053. Zhuo Jingxi's trouble was that she couldn't understand the formula. She returned from the United States with confidence, but in the end, she only learned a little bit. Her 8 years of hard work since she entered the undergraduate course were far less than Chen Guang's 6 months of self-study. Now he had put the road in front of her, but she couldn't walk on it. If she could understand his formula, she might be able to help him materialize this photocatalyst from the theory on paper into a real product and further implement it in Tangshan Industrial Factory. But she didn't understand it at all, so she was desperate. "Although it's good that you have become so powerful now, and I also admire you very much, I still can't help you. I'm still a burden." Chen Guang's troubles were much simpler and more straightforward. He really didn't have time to promote the work of putting the 5 God-level formulas into practice. Although he was the only one who understood it, he must shift his focus to Oscar's direction in 2 or 3 days at the latest. However, the final operating period of Tangshan Industrial Factory was only 4 months. All problems must be completely solved within 4 months. This was also a line of death that could not be ignored. If it could be done, they could smoothly take out 5 God-level photocatalysts, make use of the 5 pretreatment pools that had been invested 20 million yuan, and finalize patents and national scientific and technological achievements progress awards as quickly as possible, so that Xiaguang Environmental Protection could become a high-tech innovative enterprise, and at the same time, steadily meet the standards. They could justifiably correspond to the floating clause signed between Xiaguang Environmental Protection and the Tangshan municipal government, reasonably and legally promote the renegotiation of the operating period, and also get tax reduction and exemption. From then on, Xiaguang Environmental Protection and Tangshan Industrial Factory would be free to jump in the sea and fly in the sky. Even, Chen Guang could use Xiaguang Environmental Protection as the basis to restructure the company and completely integrate it into the Tianguang Group, becoming a new large sector in the group and a new growth point of business. The potential profits that might be brought by promoting the 5 God-level photocatalyst formulas alone were definitely more than $100 billion. Because of the particularity and complexity of materials science, patents in this area were extremely difficult to break. Materials science patents were extremely valuable, not to mention photocatalysts, which represented the next generation, had a wide range of applications. Not only was it efficient and pollution-free, but it was also low-cost and could even control pollution. As long as they firmly grasped the 5 God-level photocatalysts and steadily promoted their industrialization, they would be able to monopolize and lead the world in pioneering technologies. Given time, it would not be a pipe dream for Xia Guang environmental protection to grow into a behemoth that spanned across the world. The future looked beautiful, but his life was more important. The saddest thing in the world is to have too much money and then die. Money or life, Qin Guang didn't have a choice. If he couldn't count on Zhuo Jingxi, the only option left was to completely overthrow and rebuild. Furthermore, this decision had to be made as soon as possible. Next week at the latest, they would have to start a full-scale reconstruction. At the same time, Qin Guang had to use his connections to destroy the legal bidding results of the Tiansong Water Group. Such a result would put him in a passive position morally, make him bleed financially, and pay a huge unnecessary price. It would also declare his action to save Tongshan Industrial Factory a complete failure. Since he had been holding on for so long, it was even more impossible for Qin Guang to let go. He had never been a standard businessman. What he wanted was to be happy. Now, even if Song Ningyuan waved a check of 200 million in front of him and asked him to transfer it at the original price, he would not lose a cent and could even make a profit. In addition, if he couldn't get the 5 God-level formulas with the help of Zhuo Jingxi now, Qin Guang estimated that he would not be able to think about doing this in the next 2 years. Then these 5 formulas that he had exchanged his life for would have to be covered in dust for at least 2 years. It could be said to be a great regret. But what could he do about regret? He couldn't force others to do something they didn't want to do. It would be incredible if Zhuo Jingxi could easily understand what he had learned from the world in the cup. Not everyone was Einstein. Alas, since I can't understand it, then forget it. Qin Guang threw the pen away and decided to give up struggling. The movement of his left hand slowed down a bit, feeling a little melancholy. Zhuo Jingxi blushed and said with self-blame, "I'm sorry, I didn't expect that I still couldn't help at all." She could not hide the disappointment in her tone. Qin Guang picked her up by the waist. "Don't worry about these minor details. At worst, it's just a Tongshan industrial factory. I can rebuild it. Money is just a worldly possession. I can't bring it with me when I'm dead. Besides, if I spend more this time, I can still earn it back in the future." Zhuo Jingxi wrapped her arms around Qin Guang's neck and said, "I know your situation, but this will put you in a very passive position." Qin Guang laid her flat on the bed. "What does it matter? Didn't I say before? No one can be perfect in this world. Besides, there's still a long way to go. It's not like the knowledge in my head will be stolen. Looking at you, I should be very powerful now, right?" Zhuo Jingxi nodded. "It's more than powerful. I'm not very familiar with how high-end things can be turned into industries, but it seems that in modern society, mastering knowledge, especially knowledge that surpasses others, is equivalent to mastering wealth. Isn't that right?" Zhuo Jingxi wanted to pull the blanket over, but Qin Guang's gaze was not very natural. She felt strange. Did this guy change? Based on your previous behavior, shouldn't you be pouncing on me like a hungry wolf hunting its prey? Why are you still talking to me about photocatalysts? Although it was very important, I really had no choice. I tried my best to learn, but I couldn't learn it. But since you've already laid it out, give me some time. I'll slowly learn it, and you can teach me more in the future. I should be able to handle it. But now, I'm really a little sleepy. Why don't we get down to business early and talk about other things tomorrow morning?" Zhuo Jingxi spread her legs slightly and a mysterious smile appeared on her face. She purposely said in a very sweet voice, "Yes, Qin Guang, you're amazing." Qin Guang lay down next to her. "Of course. But don't worry, I'm busy now. It doesn't matter if you can't understand my formula for the time being. You don't have to worry about anything else for the time being, just stay by my side. When I have time, I'll teach you from the basics." Knowledge may seem profound, but as long as you break through the window paper and jump out of the shackles of traditional thinking, it'll be very easy to understand new things. For example, if you tell the ancients that the earth is round and that the earth revolves around the sun, the ancients will spit you to death, but now it's common sense. I believe that with your talent, you can still learn it. Chen Guang was really confident. With the talent of an ordinary university student, he could go from having no foundation to becoming a master in the world of cups. Although Teacher Zhuo was just an ordinary person now, her real talent was definitely top-notch. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been so valued by the big shot in the country, Professor Xu, at such a young age. Now, all she needed was for him to pull her out of the shackles of the current photocatalysis science and to unfold another picture that was closer to the true meaning of science. She only lacked a guide. And I, Chen Guang, will be your guide. Are you really willing to teach me? Chen Guang rolled his eyes. Nonsense, if I don't teach you, who else can I teach? Didn't I learn photocatalysis to help you? Being your assistant is helping you, and teaching you new knowledge is also helping you. It's all the same. Zhuo Jingxi was overjoyed. She turned over and threw herself at him. Chen Guang, you're so good to me. Of course. Chen Guang was moved to tears and fiercely clenched his fists. After a night full of twists and turns, he could finally get to the main topic. All for the sake of rolling in the sheets. With a pinch of his fingers, Teacher Zhuo and I talked from life philosophy to the latest high-end technology. To be able to pick up girls to such a high level, even if he wasn't the best in the world, he should be in the top 10. 3 seconds later, Teacher Zhuo once again, Chen Guang's clenched fists loosened. Before he could retract the joy on his face, Teacher Zhuo softly rolled her eyes and fell to the ground. Chen Guang had experienced a lot, so he had a strong psychological resistance. If it was someone else who was continuously cheated like this, they would have already hung themselves. This time, Teacher Zhuo fell even more thoroughly than the last time. Chen Guang had no choice but to help her sit up and put his hands on her back to transfer air to her. About half an hour later, Zhuo Jingxi slowly woke up and looked at Chen Guang with embarrassment. I'm sorry. I wanted to hold on for a little longer, but I really couldn't do it. Chen Guang sighed. It's okay. It's not your fault. Do you also do this with others? Zhuo Jingxi suddenly asked. Chen Guang answered casually, it's all the same. After he answered, he felt that something was wrong. Damn it, he spilled the beans. Sure enough, Zhuo Jingxi immediately pretended to be furious. But, you rascal, once I left, you really didn't play your part. As she made a fuss, she raised her hand and hammered Chen Guang's shoulder. Chen Guang felt guilty, so he held his head and let her vent. Unexpectedly, when Zhuo Jingxi's fist hammered his shoulder, Chen Guang felt that it did not seem to be that heavy. Something was wrong. According to the psychology of acting, Teacher Zhuo did not seem to be angry. Instead, she was acting coquettishly. Could it be, sigh, you rascal? Forget it, I don't have the right to control you. I'm just a poor female doctor who is kept by a rich family. Zhuo Jingxi hammered for a while, then pretended to be full of remorse and almost sang at the side. Chen Guang knew that she was pretending, so he could not turn a blind eye to her performance. He went up to her and sighed. I don't know what to say. Zhuo Jingxi turned around and rolled her eyes at him. All right, I'm not really angry. I'm much older than you, and you will have your own life in the future. I'm quite happy now. I'm very satisfied with being with you. Today, I'm more satisfied than ever before. You know that I don't really care about money. I just didn't expect you to learn photocatalysis for me, and to learn it to such a level. Teacher Chen, Student Zhuo, my money was all given by you, so I can't give you tuition. So this is the tuition I'm giving you. Are you satisfied? Chen Guang nodded. I'm satisfied, I'm satisfied. It's good that you're satisfied. No matter what, please take care of me in the future. Actually, if I hadn't met you, I would have made up my mind to marry academics for the rest of my life. Now that I can put academics and my man together, you don't know how satisfied I am. Come on. Another hour passed, and Zhuo Jingxi woke up again. Chen Guang had a pair of dead fish eyes, as if he had nothing to live for. He used his hand as a knife and swung it between his legs. He thought, since I can regenerate, I might as well cut it off and let it grow again. When that time comes, it shouldn't be as strong as it is now, right? Chapter 1054. However, he did not have the courage to do so. Regeneration and self-healing would definitely not be a problem, but it would definitely be painful. Chen Guang imagined the bloody scene in his mind and suddenly felt his hair stand on end. Forget it, I'll endure it. If I do this, it might leave a psychological scar on me. It would be awkward if I had to go to a psychiatrist. Zhuo Jingxi turned around and looked at him with a face full of pity. She wiped the sweat off her face and said, I'm so thirsty. I'll go drink a glass of water first. Look at you, there's no hope. You can't really torture me to death, right? I've used up all my strength. With that, she stretched out her finger and flicked between Qin Guang's legs. She scolded again, I'll flick you to death, you little monster who tortures people. Chen Guang saw that she was struggling to get up. I'll help you get some water. Sit down and rest. Zhuo Jingxi gulped down a large cup of cold water and reclined lazily on the chair. She was as lazy as a Winnie the Pooh hibernating in winter. She looked at Qin Guang from head to toe with her seductive eyes. There was a hint of unwillingness in her eyes, but there was also a hint of fear. She was really a little afraid. After Qin Guang sat down, Zhuo Jingxi mustered up her courage and said, no wonder men in ancient times had multiple wives. Sigh, women are really at a disadvantage in terms of physique. Every time, they become like this in a few seconds. They are no match for you men. What should we do tonight? What else can I do? She wanted to suggest that they just sleep like this, but she could not bear to do so. However, Chen Guang did not hear the hidden meaning in her words. There's no such thing. Actually, my situation is special. I can't explain it to you in a few words. Normal men and women are not like this. Haven't you heard of this saying? There are only cows that die of exhaustion. There are no fields that are damaged by plowing. This cows that die of exhaustion actually refers to men. Zhuo Jingxi was stunned. Her face was full of disbelief. There's no reason for that. Right now, it's clearly my field that has been plowed through. I always thought that all women were like me, only for a few seconds. Sigh, in this aspect, you are indeed no different from an ordinary woman. It is I who is too different from an ordinary man. All right, I'll admit it to you. I have a special ability. In this aspect, I'm super strong. I can't even describe it to you accurately. You know about the ancient Buddha, right? Unending life, right? I'm not bragging, but they're not even fit to carry my shoes. Qin Guang wasn't bragging. The invincible pile driver was paired with the perfect physique, and he even had the powerful earth elemental energy recovery from the earth sauce exploder. Not to mention, there were also quite a few aphrodisiac-boosting arts among the 400,000 that formed the true martial divine art. Fortunately, my surname is not Jia. Otherwise, I would have to change my name to Jia Padian. If I were born in Japan, I would have to change my name to Nikawa Okazuka. That's right, I'm a Chinese. Zhuo Jingxi was stunned at first. She thought for a long time before she realized what he meant. She felt that something was wrong. The relationship between her and Qin Guang was completely different from what they portrayed in the movies. She used to think that it was a forced show effect to ensure the length of the film, and that the actresses had taken drugs that could increase their endurance. Now she understood. Is that so? No wonder you're always restless. After all this time, no one can satisfy you? Shoo, lower your voice. Don't wash your dirty linen in public. Don't tell anyone else. Zhuo Jingxi rocked back and forth in laughter, almost falling down. It took her a long time to calm down. Seeing that Qin Guang was still as strong as ever, she sighed. Forget it. I'll give it my all today. Qin Guang asked, what's wrong? 5 minutes later, he finally understood Zhuo Jingxi's plan. He had never thought that as the world's strongest martial artist, the master of the 3,000 worlds of the heavenly Holy Grail, and the former director of the General Directorate of Light, he would always be called the swollen chrysanthemum chief by the two indecent deputy directors. In the end, it really came true. Sister Lu Fei and teacher Zhuo were the same. Chen Guang's eyes were misty with tears. If I had a choice, I wouldn't want to be like this. Sigh, forget it. This is all fate. This bullsh asterisk T fate. He sighed and looked pitifully at Zhuo Jingxi, who had her back to him, and gently moved forward. It hurts. It's okay, it's okay. It won't hurt soon. His inner strength surged. Chen Guang sent the cold but warm inner strength through an unspeakable part. Zhuo Jingxi's pain immediately lessened, and she moaned in comfort. Chen Guang covered his face. If the guy who created this ice jade arts in the realm of true martial knew that the old man was using his martial emperor's unique skill like this, he would probably jump out of his coffin and fight with him. Forget it. It's useless even if you jump out. I'm not in the realm of true martial. If you don't like it, break through the barrier of the Holy Grail and fight me? You can't beat me. Just as he was feeling proud of himself, there was a sudden ding-dong in his head. Then, the electronic notification of the heavenly Holy Grail sounded in his heart. Forced PY transaction cooldown is over. Redeemer can be used at any time. Chen Guang's eyes widened. Wait, what the hell is this? At this extremely special time, the special skill of forced PY transaction actually cooled down. Is this some kind of indescribable attribute compatibility? He looked down at Zhuo Jingxi, who was sweating profusely and almost exhausted. An idea popped up in his head that even he himself was not sure about. Then the question is, can I use super overbearing forced PY transaction to force teacher Zhuo to understand my 5 god-level formulas? If I say you understand, then you must understand. If I say you understand, then you must understand. Even if you don't understand, you must understand. After a brief thought, Chen Guang decisively decided to use the precious forced PY transaction until now. The Oscar thing would be left for later. Anyway, there would be more than one judge. Even if the PY transaction skill was still on cooldown, he could only deal with one person at that time. He still had to think of other ways to deal with the rest. Therefore, there was no better time than now. Skill cooldowns had always been like this. The earlier the skill was used, the earlier the cooldown. The great esports philosopher Yu Yufeng once said, "Not big is equal to empty." Therefore, Chen Guang focused his gaze on Zhuo Jingxi's back and said in his heart, "Dear teacher Zhuo, I'm sorry, I'm doing this for your own good. Although we are in the middle of a PY transaction, eat my double PY transaction." The next moment, both Chen Guang and Zhuo Jingxi appeared on the Battle of Tongues. The electronic notification of the heavenly Holy Grail sounded at the same time. Double forced PY transaction, begin now. Chen Guang, seriously, unlucky cup, you don't have to learn from me to specifically point this out. Forget it, this isn't important. Chen Guang turned his gaze to teacher Zhuo in the distance. Teacher Zhuo isn't wearing a civil official robe or general armor. She isn't wearing anything at all. Then, Chen Guang looked at himself again. Alright, I'm actually not wearing anything either. But at this time, Zhuo Jingxi's eyes were lifeless, and she didn't have her own consciousness. But at this time, Zhuo Jingxi's eyes were lifeless, and she didn't have her own consciousness. Then, all kinds of inexplicable proverbs, fallacies, nonsense, empty ears, and all kinds of strange verbal attacks were exchanged between Chen Guang and Zhuo Jingxi. Both of their health bars dropped rapidly. Zhuo Jingxi wasn't weak, and with the perception of the Holy Grail, she understood Chen Guang better than Chao Jingming or that unlucky waiter. Her normal attacks dealt an average of 20 points of damage. Fortunately, Chen Guang was an experienced PY transaction master, and he was very good at communicating with others. His damage was slightly higher than Zhuo Jingxi's, and his normal attacks dealt an average of 33 points of damage. After a seemingly intense but actually useless verbal battle, Chen Guang controlled the power of his moves, and the total damage dealt to Zhuo Jingxi was controlled to 100 points, no more and no less. As the verbal battle under Zhuo Jingxi slowly sank into the magma, this forced PY transaction came to an end. After leaving the PY transaction, Chen Guang looked at Zhuo Jingxi again, but found that she still didn't realize it. It was probably because her rationality was completely immersed in another matter, and she didn't have time to realize what was in her mind. However, Qin Guang's heart calmed down. In the instant the battle of words ended, the knowledge related to the 5 divine formulas had been forcefully stuffed into Teacher Zhua's mind through the Transcendence Holy Grail's PY transaction. Forget it, let's not think about this for now. She should be able to sense it when she wakes up tomorrow morning. As Qin Guang was thinking this, he looked up at the clock on the wall. It was already past 6:00 in the morning. Fortunately, the curtains were tightly drawn, or else the light of the rising sun would have shone in from outside. He quickly focused his attention and quickly got down to business. After a full half an hour, Qin Guang changed 3 or 4 positions, and Zhuo Jingxi, who was almost exhausted, was finally able to fall into a deep sleep. Qin Guang really didn't have it easy. Not only did he have to take care of himself, but he also had to constantly transfer qi to Teacher Zhua. She was tossed around too much. If she didn't protect her heart meridian, she might completely foam at the mouth and pass out. After tossing around for a whole night, Qin Guang was also a little sleepy, but he couldn't sleep yet. He carefully used his martial arts to nourish Zhuo Jingxi's body, using his internal energy to nurse her up and down, to ensure that there wouldn't be any sequelae. The two of them slept like there was no light from the sun or the moon. When Qin Guang opened his eyes again, the dusky yellow afterglow of the evening sun had already spilled in through the gap in the curtains. He sat up and saw that Zhuo Jingxi was already neatly dressed and sitting in front of the table. She was holding a pen and paper, scribbling something. She was completely engrossed, and didn't even notice that Qin Guang was standing behind her. Teacher Zhuo really understood. What she was writing now were the molecular formulas of the other 4 core functional factors of the new formula that he hadn't told her before. She had already written down the 4th one, so the 5th one shouldn't be a problem. Later, he would continue to use the metaphysical scientific research method to fool her. In any case, once she accepted this setting, even if he made a space-time wormhole appear in front of her later, she would probably be able to accept it with a clear conscience. Qin Guang was afraid of scaring her, so he didn't say anything to interrupt her. It wasn't until 10 minutes later that Zhuo Jingxi let out a long breath and threw the pen away. She stretched and bumped into Qin Guang's chest. She suddenly screamed and turned around to look at Qin Guang. She rebuked, "Why didn't you tell me that you were awake? You came to stand behind me without making a sound. You scared me." Qin Guang laughed mischievously. "I didn't make a sound because I was afraid of scaring you. I didn't expect you to be so timid." Zhuo Jingxi stood up and was about to ask him about it when she saw that he was still naked. She changed her words and said, "Go, go, go. Hurry up and put on your clothes." As Qin Guang was putting on his clothes, Zhuo Jingxi came over suspiciously and asked, "What else did you do to me last night? I don't even know what happened. When I woke up, I couldn't get these 5 things out of my head. Now, not only can I understand them, but I even know how to synthesize them. This is incredible." Qin Guang smiled mysteriously. "Teacher Zhuo, don't be angry if I tell you." "Go ahead." Qin Guang said mischievously, "Last night, no, it should be this morning. When we did it for the last time, you lost consciousness for about half an hour. During this time, I tried to explain it to you at an extremely fast speed. I've heard of a theory that when a person's mind is wandering or seems to be completely still, their state of mind will actually enter a very mysterious state. The Buddhists call it enlightenment, the Daoists call it tranquility, and modern psychology calls it meditation. I used to think that this was nonsense. But yesterday, I was in an even more mysterious state. I was wondering if I could use my unique voice to forcefully instill this knowledge into you when you were also lost in thought. At that time, I just had the mentality of giving it a try. I didn't expect it to actually work." Zhuo Jingxi nodded first. "I see." Then she shook her head fiercely. "No, that's not right. I have no impression at all." Qin Guang continued to bluff very calmly. "Of course you won't have any impression. If you still maintain even a little bit of consciousness, you will completely not understand what I'm talking about. It's precisely because you have no impression that you can remember these 5 photocatalyst formulas." Zhuo Jingxi stared at him for a long time, stunned for a long time. In these short 24 hours, Her outlook on life had been crazily subverted too many times. She even wondered if she was living on Earth now. Did I travel to a parallel universe without anyone noticing? Was the technology on Earth in this dimension more advanced? Or could it be that Chen Guang had already entered the next stage of human evolution before ordinary people on Earth? That was why he could do this kind of thing. Thinking of all the things in Chen Guang's past, the more Zhuo Jingxi thought about it, the more she felt that it was possible. It was not strange for a person to become the world's #1 in a certain field. After all, every year in the Olympics, the Olympic Games, and even the League of Legends' World Tournament, Dota International Invitational Tournament, there would be champions in any of these events. But Chen Guang was different. He was fully deserving of being the world's strongest in every field he touched, and he was at least 10,000 miles ahead of the world's second place. Other than the fact that he had broken through the barrier of Earth's genes, there was no other explanation. Therefore, perhaps it was really as he said. Through his mysterious scientific thinking, coupled with his voice, perhaps there was some special magic that mobilized the bottom level of her consciousness when she was completely absent-minded and forcibly imparted this knowledge to her. It was really unbelievable. When he said that he would teach her, although she was confident at that time, she was actually mentally prepared to learn from the beginning for 10 years. But in the blink of an eye, after waking up, she understood everything? Was she hallucinating? That was impossible. But the truth was that she really understood. Therefore, when Zhuo Jingxi woke up just now, she did not even realize that her stomach was growling. She pounced on the table like a madman and started writing the molecular formula on her own. She did it to make sure that it was real, not an illusion, and definitely not a dream. It seems like it's really like what you said? Zhuo Jingxi asked doubtfully. Chen Guang did not answer her. He only had a calm and unfathomable smile on his face. He smiled but did not say anything, as if telling her to figure it out on her own. All right, I'll figure it out myself. After a long time, Zhuo Jingxi sorted out the thoughts in her mind again and confirmed that she really understood this time. Only then did she understand that these 5 seemingly complicated and beyond the current era were, in the end, still an extension based on the current scientific theory. It was just that this extension was a little too far out of the current scope, which was why she was in a daze at that time. But now that she understood, if she tried to extrapolate it, she would find that the 5 major formulas of Chen Guang were essentially the same as modern photocatalysts. For example, Newton's law, which was once the truth, was an irrefutable truth in Newton's era. It was an epoch-making theory. However, after Einstein came up with the theory of relativity, the correctness of Newton's law became limited. When this limit was exceeded, it became wrong. However, Newton's achievements could not be denied because of this, because even Einstein's theory was based on the scientific foundation laid by Newton back then. After more than 300 years of development, it gradually advanced and evolved into Einstein's theory of relativity. The relationship between the 5 major formulas of Chen Guang and the science of photocatalysts in the current era was the same as the relationship between the theory of relativity and Newton's law. It was the same origin. Zhuo Jingxi was also very proud of herself. Her previous intuition was not wrong. Judging by the development of technology in the current era, if Chen Guang did not come up with these 5 major formulas now, he would have reached this step in about 50 years. I blindly guessed that I was ahead of the times by 50 years, and I really guessed it right. Chen Guang waited for her to sort out her thoughts before patting her on the shoulder and saying, Okay, stop thinking about it. The things have been engraved in your head, you can't forget them. Your stomach is growling. Let's go eat. Chen Guang also felt sorry for her. She had not eaten a single grain of rice since last night. Although he was the same, he was not afraid of hunger. Zhuo Jingxi nodded sweetly. Okay. The two of them were about to go out when Zhuo Jingxi suddenly reacted. It's not good for the two of us to go out together, right? She seemed to be a little hesitant, feeling that it was a little embarrassing. However, Chen Guang waved his hand indifferently. There's nothing wrong with it. If I really wanted to hide it, I would have been careful when I came back yesterday. It wouldn't have happened now. Don't worry, I've checked this hotel. There are no surveillance cameras in the suite. As long as no one captures the two of us walking out of the same room, there's nothing to be afraid of. What's more, even if I were to expose it now, the media would have to be willing to accept it, right? Zhuo Jingxi thought that this was true, so she did not say anything more. After the two of them went out, they randomly found a restaurant and asked for a private room. Chen Guang ordered a lot of nourishing soups, leaving the waiter dumbfounded. Unfortunately, Chen Guang had already put on a full disguise. Although the waiter was suspicious, he did not dare to ask too much. When they were almost done eating, Zhuo Jingxi suddenly remembered that Hua Ling and Zhong Yu should still be waiting for her in the laboratory. She screamed and got up to leave. Oh no! No, I have to go to the laboratory immediately. However, Chen Guang pressed her down on her seat. It's already so late. Can't you let others get off work? Don't go over today. Just call them and ask them to go back to the dormitory to rest. Zhuo Jingxi reacted. That seems to be the case? My formula is useless anyway? What's the point of verifying it? Chen Guang nodded. That makes sense. Then what should I do now? Isn't my existence meaningless? You can solve all the problems by yourself. Zhuo Jingxi suddenly lost her purpose. Chen Guang leaned over. Xianxia, contrary to what you think, you are very important to me. Very important? What do you mean? Although I know how to prepare and synthesize the 5 major formulas, I have some special reasons. I have to leave Tangshan factory immediately and focus on other things. From now on, I'll have to leave everything here to Old Gua and Xiaoxi. I can give you money. As long as I haven't used up all my money, I won't give up on Tangshan factory. But my time is too tight. So, Xiaoxi, what you can do for me now is to find a way to turn the 5 formulas in your head into real products. And use them in Tangshan factory. Zhuo Jingxi was not very confident. Isn't this too difficult? Although I know how to synthesize them now, you're too far ahead of the current era. I'm afraid. Chen Guang waved his hands. Don't be afraid. I can tell you with 100% certainty that although these 5 major formulas look high-end, they are actually stuck at the current industrial level. If Prince is really as powerful as you say, then you can think about it carefully. With the current equipment in Prince's laboratory, it should be enough to meet the basic production needs. Perhaps some parts of the equipment are lacking, but it doesn't matter. There are so many research institutes around the world. You should be able to find suitable equipment and raw materials. But now that I've fallen out with Prince, we can't buy the equipment ourselves. You don't know how expensive the equipment is. The production cycle is extremely long. Even if you have the money to place an order now, I'm afraid it will take 1 to 2 years for everything to be in place. Besides, a complete set of equipment of this level can't be bought without an investment of hundreds of millions of RMB. Do you know how much the total equipment investment for our school's photocatalyst laboratory is? After so many years, it's already over 100 million. And the total value of Prince's equipment, I personally estimate, is definitely no less than 300 million USD. And this is a conservative estimate. Chen Guang was slightly speechless. Although he knew that doing scientific research was very expensive, he really didn't expect it to be like this. But on second thought, as long as they successfully produced a mature result, it represented a potential market of tens of billions of USD. It was not surprising that the research and development cost of the equipment was as high as hundreds of millions of USD. Taking into account the cost of personnel and other consumables, with the power of the formula that Zhuo Jingxi stole, the research and development cost should be in the tens of millions of USD. For such a large company like Prince, the amount of money spent on research and development in a year ranged from tens of millions of USD to hundreds of millions of USD. That's not important. Let's do this first. You go back to the school's laboratory first and try using the school's equipment. If it doesn't work, we'll think of another way. What way? Chen Guang gritted his teeth. I'll think of a way to get financing, borrow money from the old men, or find the rich Tang Jie fund in America to invest. We'll set up our own laboratory. Establish a research institute. Focus on the conversion of the results of these 5 formulas. Also, if we really don't have enough time, we'll spend money to find Prince to use their equipment. We'll think of a way to get it done within 3 months. Then how much investment do you need? Chen Guang smiled. If all 5 formulas are successfully converted, how big do you think the market will be? Zhuo Jingxi thought for a long time and said tentatively, top 100 in the world? Market value of hundreds of billions of USD? Chen Guang nodded. That's right. Chapter 1055. Dreams were beautiful, but food had to be eaten one bite at a time. Chen Guang chatted with Zhuo Jingxi for more than half an hour. He first sent her to Tongshan factory, then went to Guoming's office to explain things for an hour or so, and then returned to Wujing overnight. He had already made 70 to 80% of the preparations for Tongshan Industrial Factory and Xiaguang Environmental Protection. It was almost time to let go. Next, he could only do his best and leave it to fate. Public opinion had already settled. Song Ningyuan and Zheng he had tried to show off last time, accompanied by the second-in-command of Tongshan City, but they had been chased away by the old master who had beaten them to death. Those 2 silly brothers knew how powerful they were. Even if they were unwilling, they wouldn't dare to cause trouble as openly as last time. I don't like you. If you're a dragon, you have to coil up. If you're a tiger, you have to lie down. You have real skills. You have contributed a lot to China's environmental protection, so I didn't want to play dirty with you at first. Let's not talk about personal relationships. I, Chen Guang, think highly of the Tiansong Water Company. You are amazing. In addition, you used your connections to prevent domestic experts from participating in the reconstruction of Tongshan Industrial Factory, and also ruined the Lu Chemical Company's investment. Although I'm not very happy about this, I don't particularly care. Overthrowing and rebuilding was originally a scheme of power that I had no choice but to use. Now I have another choice. I don't even need to rebuild. I just like to see you embarrassed when you find that your punches are in the air. In the end, now that you've done the first step, if it really goes to that step, I'll still have to do it 15 times in 4 months. At that time, I'll play dirty with you with a clear conscience. This was Chen Guang's current plan. It all depended on whether teacher Zhuo could make the 5 god-level photocatalysts that could be industrialized in Tongshan Industrial Factory within 3 months with the support of his own support. If she wanted money, he would pay for it no matter how much. Even if he emptied his pockets, he could at most beg from rich old men, or at most pull in investments. With his current reputation, financing shouldn't be a big problem. It was the table where he had dinner with Bai Hua and Lin Jingwei in Yanjing's courtyard. There were more than 10 people, including Xin Yuliang. All of them were rich and had lots of money in their pockets. Furthermore, wasn't the Tangjia fund that Tang Xiaokai set up in the US a venture capital investment? What was venture capital? If there was no risk, then there would be no profit, so he would not invest. Old Man's project seems to be full of risks and looks very sci-fi. But in fact, it is a profitable project. Everything is ready-made, and if it is done well, it will be a $100 billion market. It's not like I'm cheating student Xiaokai. If I ask you to invest, you'll still get rich. Some people might say, what if student Xiaokai doesn't think highly of me? What kind of joke was this? If he really didn't think highly of it, then he would just have to force a deal with him. If one deal couldn't solve the problem, then he would have to do it a second time. As for the fact that he still needed funds for the Oscars or the perfect body of the god, he had invested all of his savings in this area? Actually, it didn't matter. He had so many successful operations experience. In the field of content creators and planning suppliers, he had already become a golden signboard. Student Xiao Tsong's trust in him should be unreservedly. If he asked student Xiao Tsong to sponsor him, he would always be able to produce a lot of cash. Moreover, Xiao Tsong would probably have to carefully consider the cruel reality that if he rejected his request, he would very likely lose his position as the strongest streamer. Back then, he had suddenly thought of not signing an ordinary streamer contract with him. As an online streamer, he was still completely free. Xiao Tsong was probably suffering and happy at the same time. On the contrary, he had completely taken the initiative in the cooperation between the two of them. Other than that, No matter what Song Ningyuan and that unlucky Zheng he wanted to do next at Tongshan Factory, they definitely did not have the guts to drive a bulldozer and directly flatten Tongshan Factory before the 4-month deadline was up. At most, they could only fan the flames in the dark and make some small moves that could not be seen in public. It would not hurt the company's foundation. Regardless of whether the small pretreatment pool with 5 process lines was useful in the end, it had to be repaired. Even if it was for naught in the end, he had to admit it. Of course, he actually didn't want to wait that long. It would be best if Teacher Zhuo could come up with a decision in a week or 2. In the current situation, could he do it in China or not? If it didn't work, he would immediately move abroad and find a way to communicate and coordinate with Prince's laboratory to borrow Prince's platform to carry out the next step. It must be finally determined within a month, under the current level of science and technology, with Teacher Zhuo's coordination and overall planning ability, whether the production of the new photocatalyst could be completed within 3 months. If it couldn't, then the reconstruction plan of Tongshan Industrial Factory must be forcibly started by next month at the latest. If it was possible, he would wait for the results with peace of mind. The reason for Qin Guang's plan was not difficult to understand. He wasn't thinking about others. Of course, the factory had to be saved, and the water had to be up to standard. He had studied environmental protection, and now he was doing environmental protection by accident. Although the matter was strange and deceptive, it was all caused by Lu Li. But Chen Guang also felt that perhaps from the moment he chose environmental science more than 3 years ago, it had become a destiny. In his bones, he still wanted to become a person who was beneficial to the times. Otherwise, when he heard Teacher Zhuo's dream, it wouldn't have made his blood boil. The more power a person had, the more great things they could do, and the more responsibilities they had to carry on their shoulders. He had learned so many skills in the past, but in the end, there were only the following 4 people who could really shoulder the responsibility, shoulder the righteousness, carry the mountains and rivers, and benefit others. He had become the strongest pilot. The new version of pilot safety operating procedures that he had participated in developing could effectively reduce safety hazards in civil aviation flights. Saving a life was better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Although Qin Guang didn't deliberately show off in this matter, he still felt a sense of accomplishment in his heart. As for the fighter piloting skills that he had taught, he didn't care about it. Even if this knowledge really became someone else's killing skills in the future, he couldn't do anything about it. He didn't hide it either. He wanted to become stronger. The air forces of the world had to become stronger. He was fair, neither helping anyone nor harming anyone. To become a master of language and master all the languages of mankind, he had sorted out a comprehensive set of ideas in his spare time. Currently, Tianguang Brokerage was contacting publishing houses to publish a series of human languages, which were sold all over the world. Every language represented a thought, a way of thinking, which was the precious wealth of mankind. Chen Guang's contribution in this area was also immeasurable. He generously and benevolently shared his knowledge and perfected the inheritance of mankind, which was also something that would benefit mankind for generations to come. He didn't say it or show off, but that didn't mean that he wouldn't secretly feel proud of himself in his dreams at night. He became the strongest martial artist and killed the evil Sex and the evil leader Ouyang Tianxing. This was the most straightforward chivalrous act. Up until now, these 5 photocatalysts, strictly speaking, were not abilities that he had mastered. They were just scientific achievements. But once they were used, in addition to bringing huge profits, they could even change the world and restore the rivers and mountains. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that they were unparalleled and blessed for thousands of years. Chen Guang didn't intend to become a great man, but he didn't want to become a bad person either. He didn't think that he was that great, nor did he feel that he had changed much, but he had done so much without realizing it. In fact, doing these things was much more interesting than simply being a celebrity or an internet celebrity. He really wanted to promote photocatalysts, but now he couldn't really harm the millions of people in the lower reaches of Tongshan River because of his selfishness. The sooner he solved the problem, the sooner he could return Tongshan River to a pool of clean water. Although Chen Guang was willful and slightly selfish, This most basic principle had never been shaken. When he returned to Wujing, it was already past 10 at night. Tianguang brokerage had already gotten off work, so he went back to school first. As an authentic undergraduate student, it wasn't easy for him to not be beaten to death with his studies. When Chen Guang came back late at night, the few people in the dormitory were used to it. When he entered the door, the few of them were having fun fighting the Dota, so no one noticed him. The three of them, along with Gao Ya and another girl in the class, formed a ladder. At this moment, they were blocked under the high ground and couldn't get out. Chen Guang sneaked behind Lin Jingwei like a ghost and was amused by the headcount ratio between the two sides. 14 to 28, of course, it was the male and female duo who were blocking the high ground playing mahjong. The opponent was far ahead, and the difference was exactly 2 times. Lin Jingwei's druid manipulation had been popular recently. After the revision, he had been upgraded from an OB carry who relied on bears to a long-range turret-type druid. His equipment looked okay, and he had all the necessary equipment for 30 minutes. Chen Guang looked at Lin Jingwei's own data and immediately understood. 6 kills, 6 deaths, and 8 assists. People called him 6 shots. His equipment didn't fall behind because of the 14 kills on his side. He had taken 6 kills, and he had assisted in 8 of them. His participation rate was as high as 100%. Looking at Lin Jingwei's tired and sweaty face, only the heavens knew how hard he had worked in order to carry his sister. Chen Guang sneaked behind by Xianxia and Xianxia to take a look. Well, these 2 guys had 4 kills each, which meant that Gao Ya and the other girl had been playing the entire time. Xianxia, who was fully focused, was controlling Earthshaker. The only thing he had on him was a pair of flash daggers, which were worth a bit of money. As a support, he had probably spent all his money to buy eyeballs, powder, and mist to protect his brother's development. Xianxia scrolled through the data of both sides. Chen Guang took a look and instantly understood. No wonder the game was so bad. Gao Ya and the other girl had 0 kills, n deaths, and 0 assists respectively. Lin Jingwei's team was basically fighting 3 against 7. Roshan's been stolen. They're definitely going to go up from the middle lane. I have a plan. I'll go around them from the bottom lane, and when they go up, I'll push up to the back. You guys kill the shadow fiend who goes up with shields. If we take down one of his shields, we can still defend for a while. Xianxia just bored. Don't let him get a BKB. The Night Evernight Assassin, also known as the Cockroach, by Xianxia, let out a shrill roar. He turned around and went down to the bottom lane. This poor guy had been playing the 3rd Cockroach for 30 minutes and still hadn't gotten a flash dagger. All he had in his pocket was a push stick. Xianxia nodded. No problem. The 3 of us at the back will use mist and defend high. Chapter 1056. The cockroach of the white snake was yelling, night god," while hiding in the lower right corner of the high ground. It was as if the wind was bleak and the water was cold. Brothers, when I rush up, I'll be killed instantly. Remember to avenge me. No problem. The weak voices of Gao Ya and another girl could be heard in the chat. What should we do? Lin Jingwei said, Gao Ya, you're the skeleton king. You have 2 lives anyway. Don't worry about anything when the fight starts. Just charge forward and hit whoever you can. If your first life dies, throw your second hammer and run back to the back row to eat hot pot. Lu Jing, don't worry about anything else. Just watch me. If they try to kill me, quickly give me a thin burial and heal me. As they chatted, Shadow Fiend's swaggering figure appeared at the bottom of the high ground. The army was pressing down, and dark clouds covered the city. It's here. Lin Jingwei focused all his attention on the screen. He pulled back his druid true form, then quickly clicked on the opponent's hero unit to check the opponent's equipment. Looking at Shadow Fiend's luxurious equipment, Chen Guang felt sad and hopeless for Lin Jingwei and the others. From his point of view as the world's #1 expert, if the players were Lin Jingwei and the others, they wouldn't even be able to play this game. They would just throw their keyboards and type GG. That way, they wouldn't be able to carry the girls and end up being abused instead. At this moment, Bai Nyangzi finally remembered to look around. Yo, Brother Guang, you're back. Lin Jingwei shuddered. A second later, he jumped up from the chair as if there were springs under his feet. Brother Guang, you can play for me. Chen Guang didn't hesitate. He sat down and took over Lin Jingwei's keyboard and mouse. That's weird. Why does the keyboard and mouse feel so comfortable to use? It's as if they're my family. As a top player, he was very sensitive to external settings. Different keyboards and mice had different feedback and sensitivity. Everyone had different habits. Then Chen Guang looked down. Damn it. Aren't these my own peripherals? My custom-made electrostatic capacitor and expensive top-notch mouse, purple phantom Ouroboros. Lin Jingwei, this animal. I've only been gone for a little more than a week, and this guy has already taken my heart and liver for himself. Although Chen Guang was cursing in his heart, he instantly made a decision. While operating the shop, he used the money that Lin Jingwei intended to save to buy a blink dagger. At the same time, he swept through White Lady's finances and found that it was just enough to buy a blink dagger. By Xianxia, buy a blink dagger and bring it out. I'll take the pushing staff and you take the blink dagger. Although Bai Xianxia didn't know what Chen Guang was up to, he knew that he was powerful and followed his orders without hesitation. Gao Ya's shocked voice came from the speakers. Shadow Fiend has started to touch our Highland Tower. What should we do? Chen Guang said calmly, don't worry about it. We still have the tower defense. They won't be able to take down the barracks in a short time. Let them take down the tower first and then come in. They could only watch helplessly as the Highland Tower was touched by Shadow Fiend. The tower's HP dropped rapidly. 3 more slaps and the tower would be destroyed. There was nothing they could do. However, at this moment, even though the opponent had a shield and had superior equipment, the other 4 players were hiding in the fog. They couldn't see them at all. Chen Guang's eyes focused on Shadow Fiend. Countless data appeared in his eyes. From Shadow Fiend's movements, his vision seemed to cross space and he saw how the Shadow Fiend player's mouse clicked on the floor. As Shadow Fiend moved left and right, arrows appeared in Chen Guang's mind. The flowing data below Highland Tower gradually formed in his mind, forming a complete picture. Chen Guang then looked at the shadows below Highland Tower. It was nighttime, but 4 sneaky shadows that shouldn't exist were moving left and right. Chen Guang seemed to hear the Shadow Fiend player commanding, "You guys watch me take down the tower. Don't let anyone get hit by the fog. If the druids want to attack me, you guys just charge at them." Although he hadn't fought the tower properly for a few days and was suddenly pressed down by Lin Jingwei in front of the computer, he only needed 0.1 seconds to get into the zone. Bai Xianxia. I'll count to 3. After that, jump 45 degrees diagonally to the left, and then stab the floor in the direction you jump. Once you're done, look for their squishy support to draw a mouthful of mana, and then use a big attack. Don't be in a hurry to open the spiked shell, just grab the person on the other side and attack. Use a normal attack, but don't retreat. Bai Xianxia nodded heavily, okay. He didn't even ask Chen Guang why he was standing in the middle of the high ground and still wanted to be pushed, or how he was going to push him. He wanted to win. Even if it was just a normal match, he just wanted to win. In this situation, Chen Guang was replaced at the last moment. If he wanted to win, he had to execute perfectly. Chen Guang then instructed Xiong, don't use Shadow Fiend later. Just use the fog and jump 30 degrees diagonally to the floor. You have to wait for Bai Xianxia to make the first move before you use Shadow Fiend, got it? Got it. Chen Guang nodded, 1, 2. As he kept counting, everyone held their breaths. Lin Jingwei, who was watching from the back, clenched his fists. Lin Jingwei almost wanted to scream, because Chen Guang was tapping on the ground, controlling the druid's real body and the spirit bear to walk out together. Someone was going to make the first move. If he took another step forward, he would make the first move. But Chen Guang didn't seem to be aware of the danger. 3. As soon as he said that, the druid's figure disappeared from the spot. Lin Jingwei was stunned. Jumping blade? I didn't drop that equipment. Alright, he just bought it. Damn, is Brother Guang crazy? That's the money I saved to buy a life. You're just a cannon in the back row, Why would you drop a jumping blade? It's all over. Wait, what's this? Lin Jingwei was stunned for a moment before he suddenly realized that the place where Chen Guang jumped was in the shadows below the high ground. In front of him were 4 enemy heroes who were hiding in the fog. Jumping into the shadows to find the back row of the fogged heroes? Damn, this was too slippery. Then the question was, how would the druid die if he jumped into a group of 4? As Lin Jingwei was thinking about this, he realized that on the other side of the 4 enemy heroes, Bai Nyangzi's cockroach had already appeared a step ahead of Qin Guang, and was smirking as it fiercely stabbed its sharp claws into the ground. 1 stabbing 4. The cockroach's stab created a tidal full-screen effect. At this time, Qin Guang's druid had already started to grab the enemy's weak support witch doctor and started to attack crazily. Tut 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 tut. Although their side was completely behind, the druid, as a C-position equipment, did not fall behind. With 2 slaps, the lightning brought out by the whirlpool spat out wildly. The support had low defense and low HP, and his HP dropped rapidly. Bai Nyangzi's cockroach followed up with a mouthful of mana, and then instantly opened up, immediately breaking through the stealth, and the opponent's weak support fell. At this time, the control time of the cockroach stabbing the ground was about to end. Lin Jingwei looked at the other 3 surviving enemy heroes and clenched his fists. Among these 3, there was a C-position hero with high HP and ATK. The most important thing was that he had BKB, which was the Black King staff that could become bigger and stronger after being activated. Once this person activated the Black King staff, even if it was 5 against 4, they would not be a match. Because, in fact, it was 3 against 4, and their equipment was completely behind. But at this time, a huge ravine fell from the sky, smashing fiercely onto the 3 enemy heroes, causing them to remain in a stunned state. This was Xiong-Er's ravine, which was also the floor that Qin Guang mentioned just now. With less than 0.2 seconds of error, he perfectly connected with the cockroach's control time. Lin Jingwei looked at Xiong-Er's screen again, only to find that this guy was releasing his 3rd skill, War Totem. The opponent's shadow demon with a shield was the main damage output, but it was being continuously stunned by Xiong-Er followed Qin Guang's instructions and made a ravine diagonally 30 degrees to the bottom right corner. Not only did he control the shadow demon beside him, but the end of the ravine also slapped onto Qin Guang's body, stunning the other 3 enemy heroes. At this time, Qin Guang's druid was still standing in the middle of the enemy's 3 heroes, continuously attacking the 2nd brittle hero like a mad dog. Bai Nyangzi's cockroach was also grabbing this brittle hero and biting it to death. On the other side, Bramble's divine bull, who had moved almost at the same time as the cockroach, relied on 3 stun skills and a single piece of trash equipment, a blink blade, to firmly control the opponent's main damage output Shadow Fiend for nearly 4 seconds. Similarly, it did not allow the opponent to use the Black Emperor staff. The continuous control time between Cockroach and Bull God lasted as long as 4 seconds. In addition to the damage from the 2 skills, coupled with Qin Guang's violent output, the opponent's 2nd brittle support fell immediately. From the moment Qin Guang jumped into the crowd and started attacking, until now, when Cockroach jumped in between the 4 people, in a short period of less than 5 seconds, the opponent's equipment was almost overwhelming. In an instant, only the 3 big brothers in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd positions were left. The 2 soy sauce supports were all dead. The extremely difficult 3v7 finally became 3v3. This was because Elegant, who was originally only responsible for paying, and Lu Jing, who was controlling the Shadow Priest, also controlled their respective heroes to rush forward to attack the Shadow Demon. Although the hammer thrown by Elegant Skeleton King and the stun from Xiong-Er's Bull God completely overlapped and wasted control time, at least it could not deal some damage, right? Although Lu Jing's Shadow Priest did not lose any HP from attacking the Shadow Demon, her skills could still deal some damage. Even so, Qin Guang and the others were still in a bad situation. The 2 enemies beside Qin Guang, the 1st and 3rd brothers, were about to wake up, and the 2nd brother Shadow Demon with a shield was about to regain his freedom. At that time, almost all of their skills would be on cooldown, but the opponent would still have the Black King staff and ultimate skills. Even if it was a 3v3, they still would not be able to win. At this time, Chen Guang's druid roared in the crowd. This was the druid's signature skill, Savage Roar. Its special effect was to make the opponent's hero lose control and enter a berserk state, causing them to flee towards the opponent's spring for seconds. Chapter 1057. In less than 0.1 seconds, the enemy Shadow Fiend and the other two big brothers had just gotten out of the stun state, but they could not control themselves as they turned around and ran frantically towards the direction of the enemy's base. Still, they could not activate the Black King's staff to activate the magic immunity state. Lin Jingwei then realized that Chen Guang had quietly controlled the druid's spirit bear to rush to the side of the Shadow Fiend. The druid's real body and the spirit bear roared at the same time, perfectly synchronizing with Xiao Chang and Earthshaker's control time. Lin Jingwei did not understand at all. When did this guy pull the spirit bear to the side of the Shadow Fiend? I was clearly standing behind him, but I did not see him switch units. That's not right. Lin Jingwei blinked, and the scene in front of him disappeared in the blink of an eye. The he was always controlling, but the switch was too fast, I could not see it clearly with my naked eyes. On this end, Chen Guang's druid was still standing firmly in place like a cannon, continuously attacking the enemy's third big brother. His expression was calm, and his eyes were focused, without any fluctuations. He was in the middle of the crowd, and the enemy was hiding their killing intent. Once he woke up, he would be surrounded and attacked, but he was completely unaware of it. He controlled the hero to steadily attack, and the output of the cannon was at its peak. This guy's control was as precise as a machine, and his temperament was as calm as a robot. Lin Jingwei looked at the direction of the enemy Shadow Fiend on the screen, and found something very strange. Chen Guang's spirit bear was on the path of the Shadow Fiend's escape in a straight line, and it was using this secret skill, Repeated Leap. Well, it was actually blocking the Shadow Fiend's position. Through the spirit bear's constant movement to the left and right, it forcibly prevented the Shadow Fiend from escaping, so that the distance that the Shadow Fiend could retreat was shortened. Behind the Shadow Fiend, Xiong was still controlling the Divine Bull to charge forward. The elegant Skeleton King's reaction was half a beat slower, but it was still chasing after the Shadow Fiend. As for Lu Jing's Shadow Priest, she didn't seem to know what to do. Lin Jingwei was at a loss. There was no need for Brother Guang to block Shadow Devil's position. He should have let this guy run further away. Once Shadow Devil wakes up, with its current equipment and position, Lin Jingwei should have activated BKB and killed Xiong with 3 slaps. Then, he should have turned around to deal damage to his druid. Just as his opponent was about to break free from frenzy, Chen Guang suddenly stopped attacking. He turned his head to the right and shouted, "Bai Nyangzi! Push me!" Bai Nyangzi, who was chasing the opponent's third position, heard this and raised his push staff to push Chen Guang's body without hesitation. The direction that Chen Guang pushed out was the same as the other two enemy heroes' escape direction. The distance that he had just pulled slightly shortened, but it also lengthened the distance between his druid and the enemy's Shadow Fiend. After that, the druid continued to attack the enemy's third position in a frenzy. General attack, crazy general attack. Finally, all 3 enemy heroes broke free from frenzy. Among them, the Shadow Fiend and the Sea Hero with the most luxurious equipment glowed with a golden light at the same time. Both of them had activated their Black Emperor staffs. The Bat Knight in the third position opened up a path of flames and pounced towards Chen Guang, leaving a long trail of flames behind him. Bai Nyangzi's cockroach was in the flames and his health began to drop. Actually, the closest to the enemy's first position, the Rogue Swordsman and the Bat Knight was Bai Nyangzi's cockroach. However, he had already used all his control skills and the damage from his normal attacks was negligible. Of course, he had to kill the turret druid first. However, Chen Guang did not panic. He shouted first, "Bai Nyangzi, spiky shell." Bai Nyangzi pointed with his index finger and used his last skill. Layers of spikes appeared on the cockroach's body and the Bat Knight that was flying in the air was stunned again. The Rogue Swordsman ran halfway and threw a Galestorm's hammer with a stun effect at Chen Guang. However, a golden light also appeared on Qin Guang's body. 8 seconds after the team battle officially started, he finally handed over his Black Emperor staff. While using the magic immunity effect to block the rogue swordsman's Galestorm's hammer, he continued to deal damage to the Bat Knight that was stunned by the spiky shell. The rogue swordsman got closer and closer and raised his huge sword high. This hero's ultimate skill and war horn had already sounded. He was carrying a Deadless's Mortis on his back. If he was hit by this sword, even if Qin Guang did not die, he would still lose a layer of skin. Almost at the same time, the Bat Knight that had just suffered from Banyangzi's skills and normal attacks also slid a long distance forward and rushed to Qin Guang's side. He used his other movement tool, the pushing staff, to forcefully close the distance between himself and the druid. He tried to use his ultimate skill, Burning Shackles, to bind the druid. At this time, the rogue swordsman's normal attack was about to hit Qin Guang, and the damage from this attack was about to be triggered. If Qin Guang bound the Bat Knight in place and controlled him for 4 seconds, the rogue swordsman would chop the druid into pieces. At this critical moment, he suddenly heard the sound of a bullet being fired. The druid and the Bat Knight that had just rushed to the front flew far away in different directions. The druid had just pulled away from the rogue swordsman, and the damage from this normal attack was not calculated successfully. This was another piece of equipment on Qin Guang's body, the effect of the pushing staff. It allowed the hero that released the skill and the opponent's hero to respectively pull back and pull away. Furthermore, it also triggered the special effect of full attack speed ignoring attack range. 5 normal attacks were thrown out from the druid's hands at lightning speed and flew towards the Bat Knight in the distance. The despairing Bat Knight could only throw out a flaming bomb before he died. On the other side, after the crazy shadow demon woke up, it killed the noisy earth-shaking godly bull with 3 slaps and the elegant skeleton king who was barely able to get close to it with 5 slaps. Before the skeleton king revived, Lu Jing's dark shadow priest did not dare to move forward. The shadow demon was planning to jump over to support the rogue swordsman, but he was slapped in the face by Qin Guang's spirit bear. His whole body was wrapped in vines and roots, and he could not move. After Qin Guang's spirit bear failed to trigger its passive ability with its 4 back pats, it finally made use of the pause when the shadow demon killed the skeleton king to close in. This time, it unleashed a destiny bind that ignored magic immunity. Even though the enraged shadow demon had activated his Black Emperor staff, he was still trapped on the spot, unable to move. Fortunately, Lu Jing's shadow priest finally mustered up enough courage to approach him timidly. With a backhand slap and AC cannon, Lu Jing gloriously paid the price. The big brother with the shield felt that it was not bad for him to kill 3 of them alone. Although the team battle was a bit messy at the start, luckily I killed all 3 of them alone. I did not let down the Meat Mountain shield. On the other side, Qin Guang and the rogue swordsman, the 2 main heroes, finally started fighting. At this moment, there were only 3 people left on Qin Guang's side. His own druid, Banyangzi's cockroach, who only had half of his health left in the flame path, and the elegant skeleton king that was reviving. On the other side, there was a shadow demon with a shield and a full health rogue swordsman. Before the rogue swordsman could get close, Qin Guang slapped him 4 times and took away a quarter of his health, but it was to no avail. On the other side, after the shadow demon killed the dark shadow priest, he killed the barefooted spirit bear. Just as he was about to continue moving towards the druid's real body, he was stunned on the spot. The elegant Pei-type skeleton king had revived. She used her life to stall the shadow demon for another 4 seconds. In these 4 seconds, the spirit bear was killed by the shadow demon, and on the other side, Qin Guang had already lost half of his health to the rogue swordsman in close combat. However, he instantly summoned a second spirit bear. The spirit bear let out an angry roar, raised its hand, and clawed at the rogue swordsman beside it. He was entangled again. Qin Guang turned around and took a step back to increase the distance between them. Then he turned around and took a step back, and turned around again to attack. This was the standard way for ranged players to fight melee players. It was a perfect slash with 0 mistakes and 0 delay. His mouse was so fast that Lin Jingwei couldn't even see it clearly. Compared to standing still, his damage output wasn't any slower. The rogue swordsman let out an unwilling roar. Just as he got out of the entanglement, the Black Emperor's staff's magic immunity ended. On the other side, Bai Nyangzi's Evernight Assassin's pierce skill came off cooldown at almost the same time. He stabbed the rogue swordsman's anus from behind and continued to control it for 2.8 seconds. The rogue swordsman fell in despair. On the other side, the shadow demon killed the skeleton king for the second time, but it was already too late. With the spirit bear and Bai Nyangzi's cockroach, it was killed twice by Qin Guang from afar. In the end, this team battle ended with 10 people participating in the team battle. Only one druid with empty health survived, and the result was announced. In this battle, Sky Brilliance lost 4 people and 1 bear. Among them, the skeleton king died twice, and the bear also died twice. They killed 5 people on Nightcrusher's side and destroyed 1 flesh mountain shield. The battlefield was covered in blood. Only the druid was crawling, holding the scar on his chest proudly in the middle of the battlefield. He fought to the last moment and had the last laugh. The battle was extremely tragic, but Chen Guang's side held the high ground. Lin Jingwei finally understood the intention of Chen Guang's previous arrangement. The combination of skills was one thing, but him choosing the druid to use the leap knife and letting Bai Nyangzi's cockroach to use the push staff was truly a stroke of genius. From the beginning, he had planned to jump into the crowd and roar to make the enemies go into a frenzy. From the beginning, he had calculated the escape route. That was why he had decisively let Bai Nyangzi use the money to buy the leap knife. Of course, in the entire process of the team battle, he made 0 mistakes. The Spirit Bear's God-tier choke, the way he predicted the enemy's rogue swordsman's basic attack, and so on. Moving back in time, he jumped into the shadows and plunged into the crowd of 4 people. The timing and direction of skill release that he had arranged for Bai Nyangzi and Xiong in advance were all a stroke of genius. His every move was also a stroke of genius. His countless miraculous moves had formed this unbelievable team battle victory. After a wave of successful counterattack, Chen Guang and the others followed up. 15 minutes later, they won 2 consecutive team battles. Both sides fought for 45 minutes. Under the cheers of the dormitory, they finally won the match. Although he and Chen Guang had played together countless times in the past, Lin Jingwei had rarely stood behind him and watched him play from the first person's perspective. This bastard, when he sat down on my chair, he had already calculated all the possibilities. He was simply a bastard. He was so strong. Playing the game like this, wasn't he just bullying others? This sinful life of yours was simply unforgivable. How was it? I'm awesome, right? Chen Guang stood up and smiled as he patted Lin Jingwei's shoulder. Lin Jingwei said, "Bastard." *CK. Half an hour later, the two of them went to the dormitory's balcony to chat. "What are you doing back this time?" "I'm taking a nap. I probably have to leave immediately." "Where are you going?" "Don't know." "I'm going to compete for an Oscar." "Are you *King kidding me? With your lousy heroine?" "I'm not kidding you. It's indeed my lousy heroine." "Are you crazy? You haven't even settled the matter in Tongshan." "No, I've already settled it." "Settled my *. My grandpa called me to find a way to kidnap you." Chen Guang was slightly surprised. "It's that serious?" Lin Jingwei sighed. "That's right. It's that serious. Although you're no longer working at the headquarters probably won't have a director in the future. To put it bluntly, those martial artists will only recognize you. You can do whatever you want, but in the end, you're still someone that Grandpa and the others can't ignore. I don't want to flatter them. You and I don't like the way they do things, but from a certain perspective, they are indeed doing it for your own good." Chen Guang shrugged. "I understand what they mean. Aren't they afraid that I'll blow things up in Tongshan and ruin my reputation?" Lin Jingwei nodded. "That's right. It doesn't matter if you make movies, stage plays, or participate in competitions. After all, you won't directly interact with the people. All kinds of storms on the internet can be reversed when necessary. They can all be said to be rumors. But once you're really involved in it and have a close relationship with the people's lives, If something really happens, it can't be reversed. There's a limit to how much public opinion can be controlled. Right now, you still have to cherish your feathers a little. Chen Guang chuckled. Don't worry. My feathers are very hard. You don't have to cherish them too much. They won't break. Chapter 1058. Go ahead and show off. I don't know where your confidence comes from. What do you plan to do in the future? Are you really not going back to the headquarters? You know, if there's any trouble in the future, I'm afraid you'll have to control the situation. Right now, Grandpa and the others think highly of you. To put it more bluntly, our relationship is only secondary. Your personality and character are secondary. The most important thing is still your strength and reputation among the martial artists in Jianghu. Who knows, maybe one day when the matter of martial artists becomes known to the whole world, there will always be a time when you need to stand on the stage. Lin Jingwei said in a sincere tone. Chen Guang patted his shoulder. Don't worry about me. But then again, although you don't want to be a good fan for 3 generations, your mind is still quite clear. Why didn't I notice it before? I think you're quite suitable to take over your grandpa's position. Lin Jingwei shook his head violently. Forget it, it's too tiring. Forget it, up to you. Lin Jingwei thought for a while. His expression became especially serious. He said slowly, Brother Guang, let me tell you something. Grandpa and the rest really value you. If you're willing, you might be able to enter the center of power through different channels like Brother Bai. Brother Bai is now working at Tianjin Energy. On one hand, it's to train his ability. On the other hand, it's to enrich his resume. Sooner or later, he'll be on the path of turning from business to politics. In a sense, your starting point is even higher than his. Although the Guangdong headquarters is hidden in the dark and not as famous as other departments, it's a legitimate vice-ministerial organization. If you take this path, your resume will be firmer than Brother Bai's. Actually, among the young people of our generation, other than Brother Bai, there are at least 100 others who are climbing up the path planned by the old masters. This is called the 50 years 100 people plan within Grandpa and the rest. Your name was added last, but from what my Grandpa Jean and Grandpa Jiang have said, your position is even higher than Brother Bai's. It might be a little hard for you to understand. Although we're not blood brothers, we're closer than blood brothers. But with your previous family relationship, there's no reason for you to be so valued. But I have to explain. Grandpa often said that governing a country is like cooking, and a real chef doesn't cook. However, in order to cook a good dish, the chef had to be in control of the overall situation, and only the junior chef would be in charge. A chef has to pay attention to every step of the cooking process. Are the ingredients fresh? Are the seasonings up to standard? Are the slices of meat or dishes cut out of the mound just right? Are the chef's stir-frying skills and control of the fire up to standard? A chef has to choose a cook to handle the ladle, a chopping block, pots, bowls, ladles, vegetables, carrots, pork, and beef. It was the same principle when it came to governing a country. Some people could only be ingredients, some could be a cook, and some could be a chef. The world was bustling and mortals were food. They were molded into all kinds of dishes and entered the cycle of the 5 grains in a days. From birth to death, they would not understand why they were born and why they were living. Out of 1 million people, there would be a qualified cook, out of 10 million people, and out of 100 million people, there would be a chef. Brother Guang, as for you, in the eyes of the elders, you are a chef who can carry the whole world with your own strength. They know everything about you and what you're capable of. Your current achievements might seem like fleeting clouds in the eyes of ordinary people. Because modern information is too complicated, the brains of ordinary people are always limited. If they absorb too much useless information, it will replace the truly useful information. They will forget your achievements after reading them. But Grandpa and the others saw it and remembered it in their hearts. They can be very selfish sometimes. Every family and race has their own plans. Strictly speaking, you are one of them, but also an outsider. But you are a person who is in between the inside and the outside. Your character is strong, and your talent is unprecedented. If they don't count on you, who do they count on? It's impossible to move 1 billion people forward with just a few families. The only way is to accept talents from all walks of life. Whether it's an insider or an outsider, those who need to be used have to be used, and those who need to be placed in positions should be placed there. No matter how selfish Grandpa and the others are, they have always been clear about these things. Even in the list of the 50-year 100-people plan, there are less than half of the people who are related to our families by blood. They treat others like this, let alone you, Brother Guang. They can't bear to part with your amazing talent, but they trust your character. But they also know that you are rebellious in your bones. Since they count on you, and they know that you won't be a subordinate, then they might as well let you be a superior. So, no matter how willful you are now or how unconventional you are from time to time, Grandpa will always be willing to clean up after you. As for me, why have I treated you, Brother Guang, as a brother since the beginning of university? Actually, I should have gone abroad in my 2nd year of university, but why can't I bear to leave? Brother Guang, this is all because of you. Although I, Lin Jingwei, live a clear life, I have no ambition. But Brother Guang, you are different. We are willing to let you be the leader. Whether you continue to play games with us in the dormitory today, or go out to explore in any other field, I feel very happy and satisfied following behind you. I saw Brother Guang's personality and potential much earlier than the grandfathers did. If you want to be a dragon, you must be a dragon among men. If you don't become a dragon, you will still be a lazy dragon. Brother Guang, from time to time, do you also wonder why, with my identity, I am willing to stay in a place like Gokyo University for so many years? To put it bluntly, I don't want to take over. I want to live according to my own personality. In these 4 years, I have been very happy staying in this dormitory. I have been very happy with Brother Guang. I have been very satisfied with being with Xianxia and Xianxia. I also can't bear to leave Gaoya. Since I can't bear to leave, I will definitely not leave. Grandpa often scolds me for being clear-headed but always making stupid moves. He says that I have wasted my good brain and that it is time for me to change my heart. Because I have the ability to do great things, but I lack the heart of a strong person. In the past, Brother Guang, you had the heart of a strong person. You were never moved by external things. This is your most precious characteristic. But you lack the ability to do great things. I originally planned to wait until after graduation. The two of us will work together and lead Xianxia and Xianxia to explore the world happily. We will learn from each other's strengths and form a team. When the brothers are united, we will be able to cut through gold. But now I have changed my mind. You have everything. You have the mentality, the ability, and everything you do is so awesome. I will follow behind you and eat and drink well. Ha, Brother Guang, really, you can't escape whether you admit it or not. Chen Guang listened to Lin Jingwei's tireless narration. At first, he was very calm. He really didn't think so much and didn't particularly care about ruling a big country. When he first entered university as a rich 2nd generation in middle school, he didn't see that he was much more extravagant than ordinary students. He didn't look down on others because of his family's wealth. He still laughed and played with others in class, happily eating and waiting to die. Later, his family collapsed. When he was extremely poor, he gritted his teeth and picked his feet to live. As a university student, he worked tirelessly every day to make car rentals online to support his family. It was very hard. He also envied others who could enjoy university life in peace. But he never doubted himself that he couldn't live like this. When he was at his lowest, he was bullied by Zheng He. He didn't say a word of fear because of his family's wealth, nor did he lose his drive because he was poor. Now that he was rich, he still had 3 meals a day, 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. He didn't seem to have 3 heads and 6 arms, and could walk in the sky. He didn't think that he was very cool. He was very sloppy, very normal, very casual, and very calm. There might be some changes in the way he treated people, but the thoughts deep in his heart had never changed. For example, when he met Guoming recently, it was because he respected him for fighting with Wang Ren. When they met, he would respectfully call him Mr. Gua. Gradually, he became familiar with him and also called him Old Gua. He never looked down on him. When he met Hua Ling and Zhongyu, two equally ordinary senior sisters, he was still so friendly. He didn't feel that his beautiful hair was also 100 million just because he had a net worth of hundreds of millions. When he scratched Hua Ling's hair, he didn't feel unhappy at all. Instead, he was happy that others could treat him normally. He just felt that every friend like this was very rare and should be especially cherished. Now that Lin Jingwei suddenly pointed it out, he suddenly looked back and realized that it was terrifying to think about it. So I'm so F***king strong? I'm so cool? It was quite amazing to think about it. With his net worth and status, he could be considered as starting from scratch among his peers in the country. He might not be as arrogant as being the first in the country, but at least no one in the top 10 would dare to gossip about him. But when he thought about it carefully, the F***king old man's heart actually had no feelings at all. If Lin Jingwei hadn't pointed it out, the old man wouldn't have realized it at all. This is not scientific. I was supposed to be a domineering, cool, and pretentious king. I've pretended so much, but why am I so calm? Forget it, it's not important. At this moment he was very touched. He didn't know Lin Jingwei's identity before, so he never carefully measured the friendship between them. Anyway, as a tortoise, as a mung bean, we like each other, we hit it off. What else can we be if not brothers? Later on, when he found out about Lin Jingwei's identity, he wasn't too moved. You're the son of the emperor, but in my eyes, you're Lin Jingwei. You're the son of a beggar, but in my eyes, you're still Lin Jingwei. It was that simple. But now, he realized that Lin Jingwei's brotherly love for him was so deep, and he held such a high position in his heart. He was a little excited, but also a little embarrassed. If he didn't know that this guy's sexual orientation was normal, he would have thought that he was gay. This was a confession. Chen Guang coughed lightly and said, "Ahem. Oh, it's alright, I know everything. You really don't have to worry. I understand. The matter at Tongshan factory won't be ruined. It looks like the future is bleak, but in fact, I already have a comprehensive plan and layout. It's as stable as a dog. As for the other things, I'll give you a definite answer. I'm really not too interested. I just want to do things according to my own ideas. Of course, I'll definitely do good things. I might be able to do more things than being pushed to the forefront. In at least 3 months, at most half a year, I'll show you a great creation that can change the world. It'll be more practical than anything I've done before, and the effects will be more immediate. In addition, as for my personal image, it's actually not important. In any case, I've been muddling along the way to this point, so I shouldn't be any worse in the future. Besides, I don't plan to enter the list of 100 people in 50 years that you mentioned, because I feel that I can do more than everyone on that list combined. The 3 of you don't have to worry about anything. Just follow me. If I have a meal, you guys will lick the bottom of the pot." Lin Jingwei punched him in the chest. **CK. I'll hammer your chest with my little fists." Then poor little Lin let out another scream. He clenched his hands and howled, "Damn, is your chest a steel plate? It hurts. Sorry for not recognizing you. Silver scale breastplate, $5 each. My bones are broken. I can't be your friend anymore. I don't need a prescription. It's an ancestral medical skill that specializes in treating injuries from falls. It's guaranteed to be healed. The price is fair. Go, go, go." After fooling around for a while, the 2 of them returned to their dorms to sleep. The 2 of them seemed to be quite insensitive. Half an hour ago, they were still talking about how governing a country was like cooking a small dish, but now, they were sleeping like dead pigs. The next morning, while the 3 of them were still snoring thunderously, Chen Guang woke up early and went straight to Tianguang Agency. He planned to start blowing the horn for an Oscar. Chapter 1059. When the car was on the way and waiting for the red light, Chen Guang thought about what Lin Jingwei said last night. He couldn't help but laugh. Lin Jingwei hid himself really well. He really didn't find anything special about him before. Even after knowing his identity, his impression of him didn't change. But last night, this guy finally behaved like a child from a rich family. No matter what his personality was like, whether he was strong or not, The things he was influenced by since he was a child were different. His way of thinking was incomparable to that of ordinary children. Let my grandfather tell me that governing a big country is like cooking a small dish? I think in the end, he will definitely talk about cooking and how popular he was when he was a chef. Thinking of this, Chen Guang thought of his family's Chen hot pot restaurant that had closed down. When the business was at its peak, it was also crowded with people. The taste was incredible because of the unique skills that were passed down from his grandfather. The delicious unique skills of cooking hot pot ingredients that his father inherited from his grandfather were wasted. Thinking about it made him drool. He missed the taste of his father. Hey, isn't it the taste of his mother in other people's homes? Why is it the taste of his father in my home? Forget it, forget it. I'm thinking too far. Although some of the words last night were said by Lin Jingwei's mouth, he understood it himself. He didn't say it, but his heart was clearer than anyone else's. The reason why he said it yesterday and didn't mention it before was mainly because he was just an ordinary internet celebrity before. He didn't get involved in such a sensitive industry as environmental protection, and he didn't reach that level and position. Now that he felt that the time was ripe, he decided to be honest with her and tell her all these things. The most powerful thing was that this guy said so many things that he shouldn't have said, such as eating mortals, which was treacherous and shouldn't be mentioned to others. Although the words came out of his mouth, it was his grandfather who said them to him. But even so, the relationship between him and me still hasn't changed. This guy's ability to deal with problems and organize communication is really good. Now that he thought back to the past 3 years, the image of the Lin Jingwei of last night and the Lin Jingwei of the past could be completely overlapped. His way of doing things and philosophy were indeed several levels higher than that of ordinary people. Strong people could see his strength, but weak people would not be suppressed by his strength. They could still get along with each other like normal friends. Lin Jingwei was right. He did have the ability. The only thing he lacked was a heart that was greedy for power. Sometimes he even seemed weak. Of course, it wasn't just ability that determined a person's style, but also his will and character. These things were innate and some were nurtured. Lin Jingwei's positioning of himself was very accurate. Chen Guang reflected on himself again. All right, I admit that you flatter me. I also feel that my mentality is very good. Most importantly, I'm more handsome than you. The car started up, and Chen Guang and his Passat slowly moved forward. A person's life is like a car on the road. Some things can't come back once they're gone, and some things follow you along with your car. I want my car to become bigger and bigger, so that it can carry more and more people and things. The most important thing is that I can't screw up now. I can't die while paying my mortgage. It had actually been less than 2 weeks since he last came to the company. Everything in the company was running in an orderly manner. Everyone still had a lot of things to do, and no one was idle. The sudden appearance of Chen Guang didn't cause much of a commotion among the hundreds of people in the company. It had been a few months since Tianguang Brokerage was established, and the employees were already used to his elusive appearance. Anyway, he either didn't do anything, or he would do something big. The things he had accumulated in the past were enough to digest for more than half a year. In other words, even if Chen Guang went overseas and found an island to live in seclusion, and from then on, Tianguang Brokerage would only continue to develop many of the projects that Chen Guang had left behind. The people in the company would probably be busy for decades, and the scale would continue to expand. Just like many international companies, Disney or Coca-Cola had started from a small, insignificant idea and developed into today's giants. What Chen Guang had done wasn't a small idea. Of the 4 most outstanding contributions and achievements he had left behind, except for the photocatalyst that was still in its infancy, the other 3 were enough to support a company for 10 years. Not to mention that he still had the invincible racing god, the king of sword towers, the god of miniature sculpture, the ghost piano player, the king of darts, and the world's strongest arm strength. If he really wanted to develop them, each of them was a perfect entry point, and could even be extended to develop an entire industry chain. Chen Guang didn't have to do anything, but the 4 King Kong of Tianguang Brokerage and the operations manager, who had no sense of existence, had to consider these things. Yu Hong and the others felt that their lives were much more tiring than Chu Zijin's. Although Chu Zijin had more cash flow now, she only needed to focus all her energy on, my God. She just needed to keep pushing forward this one thing. However, if they wanted to be lazy, they could lie in their chairs comfortably and wait for Qin Guang's call and instructions. Once he made a decision and gave an order, they would work hard to complete it. This kind of person could become an ordinary employee. However, the four King Kong were not ordinary employees from the beginning. Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Su Li, who used to work for the Tangjia Foundation, and Lu Xiaoyang, who had been recruited by Qin Guang through his relationship with the H-Pad, were all talents and had their own pursuits. As a result, when Qin Guang had nothing to do, they were busy as dogs. When Qin Guang came to work, they were as busy as dogs. Those who took the initiative to find trouble and could plan and push forward the whole industry chain were the real talents. However, this was not enough. Once they made a wrong decision, the company would suffer a great loss. Those who could not only make trouble but also see through the appearance and see the essence in the mysterious market without making any mistakes or even fewer mistakes were the real talents. So far, Yu Hong was the best in this aspect. After all, he was an astute person who had never made any mistakes. Su Li was also very strong. There was no trifling matter in finances. He could always arrange everything properly, and he would be able to keep track of the flow of any sum of money like the back of his hand. Even his communications with the public security, judicial, and tax authorities were constantly maintained. But Face and Fang Tianyu were not so good. The stain in their lives was that they had bought Bai Nyangzi's book about girls when they were buying the IP in bulk. Aside from the topic, the White Snake's lousy book, the millionaire's young master's poisonous and spoiled little wife, Please Love Me 1001 More Times, has already stopped updating. It's only a matter of time before it's finished. It was not that he could not live with money. It was that he did not have any ideas in his head at that time. He had written a pile of sh*t, the kind that could fly to the sky at any time. But later, Chen Guang pulled the shoots to help them grow and forcibly created some popularity, so he held back and wrote for a long time. As he wrote for a long time, the sh*t in his head and book started to ferment. At first, it was just a stench, but now it had rushed out of the universe. The readers could not continue reading, and he could not continue writing. The plot collapsed from the Arctic Ocean to the Antarctic continent. Now, he could not write a word even if someone stabbed him with a knife. This money was completely fed to the dogs. Fortunately, it was not a lot. In addition, the operation manager of Tianguang Agency was relatively lousy. But there were no problems in the daily affairs of the company, such as hygiene, food, office supplies, contact with the property management, and so on. So, Qin Guang did not ask him about it. This old man also understood that the more capable you are, the more effort you put in. He knew that the internal power structure of the company had been completely formed, and he could not squeeze into the inner circle of Chen Guang. He did not ask for merit in the company, but he did not make mistakes. He was competent, but he did not want to get involved in more things. Chen Guang sat in the office for about 5 minutes. The 4 fund managers did not need him to call them, and they all took the initiative to come over. This time, he had done so many things in Tangshan City, and now he came back early before it was finished. There was only one explanation. He had a major decision. Looking at Qin Guang, who was sitting in the chair and pretending to be silent, Lu Xiaoyang thought of Yang Shi's call to him 2 days ago, and his hair stood on end. What Brother Yang said, could it be true? Boss, you can't be serious, right? Although I know you never fail, the situation this time is a bit different. In the past, you only wanted the public's reputation or the most straightforward competition. As long as you won, there would be no suspense or controversy. But you are secondary. It seems to be objective, but in fact, it is all the subjective judgment of the judges. I hope he is not thinking about this, right? Lu Xiaoyang looked at Fang Tianyu next to him anxiously. Last night, when the two of them went to the bar together, Comrade Xiao Lu couldn't help but say it out loud. As a result, Comrade Xiao Fang spat out the shivas in his mouth all over his face. The four fund managers each pulled out a chair and sat in front of Qin Guang's expensive mahogany desk. They watched him frown and tap his fingers to show off. Chen Guang was also secretly observing the state of the four people. He thought to himself, brothers, as the old man's people, after being slapped in the face by the old man again and again, you should have learned your lesson, right? Last time, the old man also gave you a warning. You should have absolute confidence in me, right? But today, I am considerate of you and take care of your feelings. So, I will pretend to think about it. I will let you think that this is a major decision made after careful consideration and not a stupid idea that came out of nowhere. Look at how considerate I am as the boss. I really don't want to lecture you anymore. Anyway, it is not wrong to believe in the old man. When he was almost done, Qin Guang leaned down slightly and faced the four people. His face showed a determined expression that only appeared when he was making a decision. Everyone, listen up. I have decided to fight for the Oscar for Best Actor. Although Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu had vaguely heard about this, they already had an idea. They had already experienced a headache before. But the previous news was not completely certain. Now that they finally heard this desperate news from Qin Guang's mouth, it was still a headache. What kind of boss did we follow? Why do you always act so out of the ordinary? Our lives are so tiring and stressful. If it wasn't for your high salary, I would have applied for a job at the adult products company next door. There are so many beautiful women in their company, and they are so bold. Chapter 1060. Boss Chen? Are you saying that we should start thinking of ways to contact famous European and American directors to film a Hollywood art film? Aim for the next Oscars? After all, there are only 3 months left for this year's Oscars. Yu Hong, who had been kept in the dark, asked tentatively. He thought that although Mr. Chen's path was a little wild and his steps were a little too big, with the acting skills he had shown when he acted in dramas, as long as the script was suitable and the director was suitable, he could tailor an artistic film according to the current international situation and the mainstream values of Europe and the United States. There was a 10% chance of success. That was not low at all. Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang looked at each other in despair and then looked at Yu as if he were a retard. The pitiful old Yu, who was mature and steady, would let out a blood-curdling scream in about 10 seconds. Su Li also said, according to the current financial situation of the company, it is feasible. The film for the Olympic Games is different from the ordinary Hollywood commercial films. It is more artistic. The investment can be controlled to less than 200 million yuan, which the company can afford. However, the box office and the income are not guaranteed. In addition, according to the current experience, the publicity and public relations expenses of a film for the Oscars should be more than $10 million. Which is doomed to be a total loss. Even if the film wins the award, it will be impossible to recover in a short time. The lascivious duo looked at Su Li and had the same idea. Su Li, you are worrying too much. We don't need to invest in the film, not even a dime. The public relations expenses are inevitable, but the expenses of the film itself are the most important. Because our boss wants to use women to compete for the Olympic Games. Chen Guang listened to Yu Hong and Su Li's opinions first and then looked at Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang, who looked as if they had eaten a fly. Don't you have anything to say? They wanted to say something, but they didn't want to betray Yang Shi, so they just shook their heads. Let's listen to your next plan first. Actually, we don't want to hear it. When Qin Guang saw their weird expressions, he knew that they already knew what was going on. He rolled his eyes secretly. Buttface, who was well-informed, must have known about it and told Fang Tianyu about it. D*M, you obviously don't believe in the old man's ability. Forget it, old Yu and Su Li's performances were very reliable. Chen Guang looked at Yu Hong again, smiled and shook his head. No. Old Yu, I'm not going to shoot a new film. I'm going to use women to fight for the Olympic Games. Not the next one, but this one. Before the 31st of this month, we must complete the screening in America. *CK. Comrade Old Yu cursed in disbelief. His eyeballs almost popped out of his eye sockets. Even he, who never showed his emotions, couldn't control himself. Comrade Xiao Lu and Fang Tianyu finally stopped pretending and expressed their stance. Lu Xiaoyang, that's ridiculous. The 31st is a week or so, and the key is that President Qin, as an actor, has no reputation overseas at all. Director Deng's status was also far behind. Women itself isn't some kind of deep film. What the hell? Fang Tianyu said, that's right. As the investment representative of the Tangjia Foundation, I dealt with the Motion Picture Association quite a bit. The Oscars aren't as simple as they seem. You have the right time, the right place, and the right people. Boss, you have everything you want now. Chen Guang looked at Old Yu with a sorrowful face. I knew those two couldn't keep their cool. Old Yu, you're undermining me too. I'm very sad. If you want to use women to fight for the Olympic Games, it's not impossible. At this moment, Su Li spoke again. To Chen Guang, it was like the sound of heaven. Chen Guang looked at him with a face full of joy. Fortunately, at least not all of his people were fools. There were still people who understood him. He looked at Su Li's eyes brightly. Su Li stopped writing and looked up at Chen Guang. But President Qin, we have to raise the budget for public relations and publicity to at least $200 million. Currently, the head office can't afford it. It's a bottomless pit. Chen Guang said, F***CK. You're not my 4 great generals, right? You're the 4 great generals. You're my 4 explosives experts, right? Boss, can I return the money? Can I change the deck of cards? Obviously not. I can't bear to do that. Chen Guang sighed. You guys, why don't you learn from your mistakes? Think about your past and think about how Tianguang Talent Agency has come so far. I've already mentioned it last time. I've never failed in what I want to do. It's the same this time. I can't tell you how important this matter is to me. But I have to emphasize one thing. Compared to the past, my determination is stronger than ever. I have to get the Oscar next year. I won't allow anything to go wrong. As he spoke, his expression and tone became unprecedentedly serious. He really couldn't make a joke. In the past, he allowed himself to fail. After all, the price of failure was bearable. But this time, if he failed the Olympic Games, he would definitely die in 2 years. Although Yu Hong and the others still felt that it was inconceivable, Chen Guang was really too serious. The 4 of them were also elites in the workplace. They understood that as the boss, he had already shown his unquestionable determination. So, work was work. Personal feelings had to be put aside for the time being. Chen Guang was very satisfied with the change in attitude of the 4 of them. He nodded. Let me first briefly explain where my confidence comes from. The positioning and concept of the film itself, as well as director Deng's influence both at home and abroad, have indeed caused woman to be born with a disability. There's a huge gap between it and a normal Olympic Games film. But although the Oscars have always been criticized as the embodiment of political correctness in Europe and America, in fact, it's still an award for filmmakers. When the contribution and help of the film itself to the film industry is absolutely strong, even enough to suppress any other side effects, political correctness may lose the battle. So, there's a lot of room for maneuverability in this matter. It's not completely impossible. You've seen my performance in the play, Thunderstorm. Later, I'll ask Big Beard to send me a copy of the newly edited film sample. I think that with the acting skills that I've shown in the film, it's enough to represent the people in the film industry, especially the next generation of actors. My acting skills are beyond the times. This is the only advantage of woman. What we need to do is to infinitely magnify the influence of my advantage, to the extent that it's enough to suppress all doubts. I'll also prepare as soon as possible, and strive to come up with a monograph that's enough to conquer all the people in the film industry before the official selection. It doesn't matter what the previous and future Oscars are, but this time, we need to use our own strength to make the Oscars not the Oscars for politicians, but the Oscars for filmmakers. As for the public relations fees that Su Li mentioned, it doesn't matter even if it's really as high as $200 million. I'll find the money, no matter how much it is. Remember what I said, no matter the cost. When the Oscars, Okay, that's the end of the discussion. From now on, the other matters of Tianguang brokerage will be put on hold. If it can't be put on hold, push forward with the least amount of manpower and resources. If it's really too busy, expand the scale of the company. Currently, 90% of the fighting power of the whole company will be transferred to this matter. Chen Guang waved his hand and set the tone for this matter. Finally, he said, "Now, each of you go back and think about it. Write a proposal in 3 hours. Write down the role that each of you will play in this matter, and what kind of specific matters you will be responsible for. Everyone, show me the attitude of a final battle, and don't allow anyone to drag me down. Also, don't allow anyone to question my decision again. If it's done well, apart from individual rewards, I'll give each of you an opportunity. I'm sure you all vaguely know that I'm now an inner strength martial artist, and I've long surpassed the scope of ordinary people. I'll personally use my power to recuperate the body of you, or the person that you want me to help. Gold is not as good as gold, so you guys have to work hard." Yu Hong and the other 3 people suddenly became spirited. Chen Guang's last promise could be said to have captured their biggest wish from the bottom of their hearts. Ever since Yu Hong started working, the years of high-intensity work had left many hidden injuries in his body. He had always been in a sub-healthy state, as if he could collapse at any time. Until now, he was still relying on his willpower to hold on. If what CEO Chen said was true, Fang Tianyu thought of his bedridden younger brother. Lu Xiaoyang and Su Li were also full of thoughts, but their blood was boiling. CEO Chen was right. How would we know that we'll definitely fail if we don't try? Moreover, his acting skills are really good, almost invincible. As his employees, how can we not have confidence? Even if we don't have confidence, since he has already made such an important decision, and it's not to be questioned, of course we can only follow him and charge forward. Even if we fail in the end, no, listen to him, we can't allow failure. He's right, the Oscars are essentially the Oscars for the filmmakers, not the Oscars for the politicians. Our family's CEO Chen's acting skills are so good. If he doesn't win the Best Actor award, even the heavens won't tolerate it. The 4 great generals buried their heads in their own offices, working hard on their proposals and plans. Chen Guang, who was as steady as a mountain in front of everyone and was like the reincarnation of the victorious fighting Buddha, yawned and turned on his computer to browse Weibo. He looked at the number of fans in his private messages, and his eyes were glowing. On the contrary, he was not anxious at all. Leave the professional matters to the professionals. Anyway, even if I burn my brain, I won't be able to get any results in this aspect. What about the 4 great generals? Just lie down and use them. I don't believe that my carrot and stick can't move you. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the 4 great generals did not have time to eat. They promptly placed their respective reports in front of Chen Guang. Chen Guang, who had just burped, waved his hand and said, "You guys go eat first, I'll take a look at the report." After everyone left, he quickly browsed through the report. Yu Hong mainly wrote about how the company's internal resources were mobilized, how to coordinate the work, from funds to manpower, and all aspects were detailed. In just 3 hours, Yu Hong was able to come up with such a comprehensive plan, which was worthy of his identity as the head of the 4 great generals. Of course, there might be some loopholes and imperfections, but Master Guang could not understand it at the moment, and he did not need to understand it. Fang Tianyu, on the other hand, based on his own experience and business relationships in North America, sorted out the Oscar selection rules more comprehensively and had more detailed requirements for related films. In addition, he also used his personal connections to inquire about the list of qualified participants and detailed information. Lu Xiaoyang, on the other hand, analyzed the publicity strategies and details of the past 10 Oscar-winning films in 3 hours, and came up with a complete set of supporting publicity ideas. He even took out the performance art monograph that Chen Guang had just casually thrown out. In turn, he asked Chen Guang to come up with the monograph 2 days after the film was released in North America. Su Li, on the other hand, looked through all the plans of the previous 3 people, then used the last 15 minutes to complete the financial planning and made a more detailed and accurate estimate. The total publicity funding was as high as $40 million, 4 times the budget of an ordinary Olympic film. This was burning money, and it was almost a loss. But in such an absurd situation, if they wanted to succeed, they had to burn money. After the 4 of them quickly ate Chinese food in half an hour and returned to the office, Chen Guang slapped the table. "Very good, your plans are all very good. Let's go now. Tonight, Fang Tianyu, Lu Xiaoyang, and I will go to America." When night fell, Iron Wing soared into the sky with the last rays of the setting sun. The Boeing 787 held its head high, let out a deafening roar, and brought the 3 of them straight to Los Angeles. At the same time, the rising superstar of the domestic culture and entertainment industry, with more than 100 employees, the company's cash flow of nearly $300 million, a valuation of nearly $3 billion, and a total company value of nearly $10 billion, such a behemoth like the Tianguang Group, set off like a mighty and huge chariot. Target, Los Angeles. Target, Target, survive. Chapter 1061. About 20 hours later, Chen Guang and the other 2 arrived in Los Angeles. It was 10 in the morning there. As soon as the 3 of them got off the plane, they went straight to the local hotel with the reception staff of the Xianxia Foundation. They had a good sleep to adjust their biological clock. Chen Guang was Superman, but the other 2 main combatants, Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang, were ordinary people. They stayed at the Flemington Hotel, which was next to the American Film Institute's headquarters. It was a famous hotel in America, and many celebrities would choose to stay there when they came to California. They could reach the Hollywood Wuxia Theater, which was located at the heart of the Walk of Fame, in about 15 minutes. It was a historic movie theater, adjacent to the Truman Theater. It was a landmark in Los Angeles, Hollywood, and even the United States. The theater had hosted the Oscars many times, as well as other important conferences. It had a very important historical significance, and it was also a tourist attraction and cultural temple in Los Angeles. There was a cement wall made of handprints in the square outside the movie theater's main entrance. Since decades ago, whenever there was a major event, the founder of the movie theater, the Daoist family, would invite celebrities to leave their handprints and gilded names on the wall. So far, the people who could leave their personal marks on the wall included presidents, big shots in the business and scientific fields, and more famous celebrities in the entertainment and cultural fields. Due to the changes in the market economy in recent years, in order to coordinate with the publicity, or perhaps because of the consideration of benefits, the selection criteria for the handprint wall had become less strict, even causing a lot of controversy. However, no one could deny that it was an honor that no celebrity in the world could ignore. To Chen Guang, the best news was related to the Hollywood Wuxia Theater. With Tang Xiaokai and Big Beard Deng's help, the American premiere of Women, a movie with a weak foundation, was held in this cultural mecca. Holding the premiere at the Wuxia Theater would, of course, have a mysterious effect on Women, which was originally from China. Regardless of the quality of my movie, I'll hold the premiere at the Hollywood Wuxia Theater, just like many Oscar-winning movies. I'll raise my status and level first. That's how shameless I am. What can you do to me? The world premiere was set on December 25th, which was Christmas Day. This festival was quite popular in China. In Europe and the United States, it was as important as the first day of Chinese New Year. Only the heavens knew how much favor Tang Xiaokai and Big Beard Deng had done for them to be able to cut the queue for this day. As the founder of Hollywood's Wuxia Theater, the Daoist family currently held the largest share in the cinema chain company. The rest of the shares were controlled by various parties, but they had almost no control over the local funds in Wuxia. The name of the theater had nothing to do with the Chinese. It was purely because the founder and his partner wanted to build a landmark building and cultural industry in Los Angeles that was full of the charm of Eastern culture. In terms of capital, Hollywood's Wuxia Theater was only controlled by the Xianxia Foundation through multiple layers of control. They held less than 0.15% of the shares of the cinema chain company and had no influence on the decision-making level. They were only selling Tang Jiefun's reputation on Wall Street. Tang Xiaokai had given Qin Guang enough face. There was no need for him to come, but in order to carry out this matter, he had even arrived in Los Angeles a day earlier to hold the fort. But at this moment he was angry and embarrassed. Tang Xiaokai suppressed his anger and sat in the office of the Josh Stein family's current leader, the general manager of the Wuxia Theater, Donald Josh Stein. He looked at the silver-haired old man in his 50s with a straight face. Donald Josh Stein wore a well-ironed suit with his combed, silvery hair that looked like a waterfall. Perhaps it was because he had been keeping a straight face for many years, but the cheeks on his slightly plump face drooped and protruded. Judging from his appearance, he was a stubborn old man who didn't like to think for others. Tang Xiaokai took a deep breath and slowly said, "Mr. Josh Stein, this is different from what we originally agreed on. Even if I can't get the number 1 screening room, you can't possibly arrange the number 14 screening room for me, right? It'll be hard for me to answer to my friend if you do this." Donald Josh Stein was expressionless as well. He shrugged slightly, which was almost invisible to the naked eye. "Mr. Tang, I understand that you want to help your friend. That's why I originally arranged the number 7 screening room for this movie from China. But I had no choice. Just 2 nights ago, my friend of many years, Mr. Diaz, personally called me. His friend is a famous old professor from Wesleyan University who has a lot of works. He also needs my number 7 screening room. You know, whether it's Mr. Diaz or Wesleyan University, I have to respect their request. So I can only let you and your friend down, Mr. Tang." When Tang Xiaokai heard that, he knew that the reason given by Donald Josh Stein was irrefutable. This was not China, after all, it was the Americans' territory. Moreover, Donald Josh Stein's status in the film industry was not something that he and Big Beard Deng could compare to. But you can't put it in such a remote location like number 14 screening room, right? This is simply... Donald quickly waved his hand. "Mr. Tang, all the screening rooms from number 1 to number 12 have been booked. You know it's Christmas. Just like the Chinese New Year movies, many people want to show their movies on this day. As for my Wuxia Theater, there are even more people who want to hold the premiere here. Number 13 screening room is empty, but do you need me to change it for your friend? I know you Chinese don't care about this number." Tang Xiaokai's face turned gloomy. Chen Guang wanted the Oscars. He did not have to worry about it in China at all. With a few months of publicity and the influence of the film's main production team, there was no doubt that the box office would reach the top on the day of the premiere. However, in Europe and America, a movie that was competing for the Oscars was being premiered in number 13 screening room. What was this? Was this a joke? If the media reported it as a joke, people would have to avoid mentioning the name of the movie and change it to the unknown movie that premiered in number 13 screening room. "Mr. Josh Tan, please don't joke with me." Tang Xiaokai was, after all, a person who could call the shots on Wall Street. Although Donald Josh Tan was influential in the film industry, he could not compare to Tang Xiaokai in terms of status. Tang Xiaokai's words were equivalent to expressing his bottom line. Donald was used to flaunting his seniority, and he believed that he understood Chinese people. He did not have much contact with Tang Xiaokai in the past, so he treated him as an ordinary gentle and reserved Chinese person. Now, he realized that he had made a joke. Donald's face changed slightly. "Mr. Tang, you misunderstood me. I was just joking. Please don't mind it." Tang Xiaokai saw that Donald's tone had softened, and his expressions softened a little. "The matter of number 14 screening room has been decided. Thank you for helping me and my friend. However, there's another matter." Donald immediately shook his head. "Mr. Tang, please don't make things difficult for me. All these years, I have brought a lot of negative influence to the theater because I agreed to someone's request to leave a fingerprint on the wall. I know that Mr. Chen's goal is to fight for the Oscars. If he can really do it, he will be the first Chinese to win the Oscars. It is indeed historic. However, Mr. Tang, do you think that's realistic? Although I, Donald, am only the owner of a theater, I have many friends in the Film Academy. I am very familiar with the rules of the Oscars. Therefore, I can tell you clearly that it's impossible. I admit that Mr. Chen has a certain level of fame in the world, but his past achievements have nothing to do with the art of film. I recognize his great contribution to the aviation industry. A hero is worthy of respect, but that's not enough. His nature is no different from those online anchors who became famous on YouTube. His social status and artistic achievements are far from being worthy of leaving his name on the wall. Tang Xiaokai slammed the table. Even the world's #1 language master is not worthy. Don't you know how high his status is in the language world now? That's meaningless. This has nothing to do with film or art. His achievements in arm strength and darts have nothing to do with art. Tang Xiaokai stared at him. Then, his achievements in the piano, the greatest piano artist in human history, have nothing to do with art? Donald was still stubborn. Mr. Tang, you might be mistaken. He's only a piano craftsman, not an artist. I don't deny that his piano performance is very perfect. Even my granddaughter's school uses his videos and recordings as standard teaching materials. However, until now, he has never really created anything other than playing other people's songs. What he plays is, in a sense, like a CD. That's all. You're being unreasonable. You're twisting words and forcing logic. He restored the real Mozart, Tchaikovsky, and Beethoven. His performance is the closest to the original, allowing people to travel hundreds of years to hear the real performance of those masters. Isn't that an artistic achievement? Donald couldn't help but sneer. Where's the evidence? Mr. Tang, there is still a lot of debate in the piano world about the problem you mentioned. Most of the people who support him are the friends of the people who lost to him in the competition. God knows how many benefits these people have received from him. Mr. Tang, you might not know much about the art world, but they're about to fight. Before Tang Xiaokai could continue, Donald spoke again. Mr. Tang, I'll admit it. The fundamental reason is that I personally hate him because of my personal feelings. I don't care what achievements he has in other fields. I'm not even interested in watching the digital source of the movie you sent. I can't accept his behavior at all. A person who's appeared on the screen for the first time and hasn't even acted in a TV series is delusional enough to want to win an Oscar. He even used your personal connections to force me, just to fulfill the rigid requirement of releasing the movie before December 31st. Chapter 1062. He's basically insulting me. He's insulting all of Hollywood. He's insulting all the filmmakers in the world. This was a decision he had made in a hurry. He's fooling around. I've also seen his past deeds. He's arrogant, rude, and condescending. I had nothing to do with him in the past, and I didn't care what kind of person he was. But now, he's extending his evil claws to the film industry that I've worked hard for all my life. You don't know how angry I am. I admit that I've agreed to the Wuxia people leaving their names on the handprint wall out of business considerations, but not right, Chin. No matter how much money I have. I can't leave such a stain on my life that I can't get rid of. Tang Xiaokai looked at the old man who looked like an enraged lion. He really couldn't do anything to him. After a few minutes, the old man calmed down a little and shook his head repeatedly. I'm sorry, Mr. Tang. I lost my composure. But I sincerely hope that you can understand that it is out of deep consideration that I have refused your request. Even if you have a close relationship with the other 2 or 3 shareholders of the Wuxia Theater, at least for now, the Joshtan family still has the final say in this theater, right? Tang Xiaokai rubbed his wrinkled eyebrows. All right. But Mr. Joshtan, you'll definitely regret it in the future. You actually don't understand Xinguang at all. You should watch the movie first before making a decision. Donald shook his head. There's no need for that. I know the standard of the Wuxia film industry very well. If the director was Wang Lin, I would watch it, but it's not. Of course, to maintain our friendship, even if it's Theater 14, I'll specially allocate a publicity platform for you guys. It won't be smaller than the others, and it'll be convenient for you guys to walk the red carpet and hold the premiere. I've really tried my best. Tang Xiaokai finally heard some good news. That's it then. But I still insist on my point of view. You'll definitely regret it. Donald smiled. I also insist on my own point of view. If I really regret it, I'll only wear a tie and plaid underwear and run one round around the Wuxia Theater. When the time comes, I will invite a reporter from the New York Times to take a special photo of you. When Qin Guang appears on the cover of Time magazine as an Oscar winner, your photo will be on the left and right of his feet. Ha, no problem. I won't sue you for infringing on my portrait rights. I can even sign an authorization document right now. Tang Xiaokai made a very rude joke before he left, but Donna did not take it seriously at all. Tang Xiaokai didn't take a car. Instead, he walked to the Flemington Hotel, followed by 10 armed bodyguards in black. Along the way, he was thinking about how he should explain this awkward situation to Qin Guang. Theater 14 could only accommodate 150 people. Although it was also an IMAX giant screen, it was embarrassing that the world premiere was held in such a remote and small theater. Although many other cinemas had been settled, their statuses were not the same. Also, because of the haste, the preparation time was too short, and it was Christmas today, they really couldn't invite many celebrities to support them. It would be very awkward when the time came. Thinking about it carefully, the promotion platform that Don had promised was also a scam. I don't have many people, how can I walk the red carpet with my head? The more he thought about that old man's face, the more he hated it. Forget it, anyway, the hard conditions for the Oscars had been met. The thing that Qin Guang asked him to do was to help him get it released before December 31st. According to him, it wouldn't matter even if he found a small commercial theater in any corner of Los Angeles to play it. Since he could find the Wuxia Theater in Hollywood, he had done a good job as a friend. He would leave the rest of the matter to him. According to Yu Hong, he had almost stopped all other businesses in Tianguang Group and was even prepared to spend almost 90% of the company's liquidity on this. That was $40 million. Just how crazy was this guy? Tang Xiaokai felt that he couldn't understand Qin Guang's crazy way of doing things, but he was in no position to stop him. It was because he couldn't understand it that he couldn't give any practical advice. In addition, he had a lot of things to do. It was enough for him to spend 2 or 3 days to help sue Quebec. As for the promotion and marketing, he could send some people to help him. Tang Xiaokai knew Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Su Li very well, so he didn't worry that Qin Guang had no people to help him. It was said that Fang Tianyu had found a close friend called Buttface. Since the two of them could be together, Buttface must be quite capable. When Tang Xiaokai arrived at the hotel, Qin Guang and the other 2 people had just stayed there for less than 15 minutes. Mr. Tang, Mr. Qin, and the other 2 people have just fallen asleep. Do you need me to wake them up? The receptionist arranged by Tang Xiaokai had just accompanied Qin Guang and the other 2 people from the airport to this hotel, so he was quite familiar with the situation. Tang Xiaokai waved his hand. No, I'll go to my room first. I need to deal with some company affairs. When he was talking, he saw a figure walking out of the hall in the distance. It was Qin Guang. Long time no see. Qin Guang's eyes were sharper than Tang Xiaokai's, so he greeted him from a distance. Tang Xiaokai walked up to him with a smile and whispered in Qin Guang's ear, "What? Brother-in-law, don't you want to take a rest?" Qin Guang waved his hand. "I don't need to rest. I'll sleep when it gets dark." "Wait, what did you call me just now?" Tang Xiaokai smiled and continued to say sneakily, "Brother-in-law." Qin Guang jumped back. H*T, don't talk nonsense. Be careful, or your sister will strangle you to death. You don't know, do you? Last week, I went to Morelands to meet my sister. She was crazy. She talked about you every time she opened her mouth. From your charisma to your genetic arrangement, I even suspect that she is preparing to give birth to your child. Qin Guang. Pfft. Genetic arrangement my ass. Give birth to a child my ass. Wait, Tang Ying is analyzing my genetic arrangement now? Last time I shot it at her, go. Qin Guang couldn't help but think that if a simple genetic analysis couldn't satisfy her scientific ideals, with Tang Ying's previous performance as a medical maniac, she might really do something crazy like combining 2 people's chromosomes. She would definitely want to study the changes that would happen after her genes intersect with an ordinary person's to give birth to an embryo. Bastard! You won't even let your own child go. Thinking of this, Chen Guang couldn't help but feel a chill down his spine. Let's not talk about your sister first. Just call me Chen Guang. You're older than me anyway. Oh right, how's my matter this time? I'm sorry for troubling you. You're so busy every day. Tang Xiaokai waved his hand. It's fine, it's fine. Brother-in-law's business, I have to take care of it. My sister also said that she is working with Morlens and Gokyo University to set up a research institute to study your genes. This is probably the most high-end pregnancy preparation plan I've ever seen. Chen Guang, who had just sat down and took a sip of his tea, almost spat it all over Tang Xiaokai's face. Pregnancy preparation your head. Stop talking nonsense. Why didn't I hear it like this? She already talked to me about the research institute before she came to America. She wants to do research on genetic medicine, but it's not just my genes. Isn't that a joke? I'm begging you, I'm in a mess right now. Don't go off topic. Tang Xiaokai stopped joking. Alright, let's get back to the main topic. But don't be angry at me. I've settled the matter of the screening for you. I've found a medium-sized distribution company, and my Tangjia Foundation has a leading position. In addition, Deng Xiaojiang and I went through some channels to get the approval from the Copyright Office, so it was approved very quickly. As for the cinema, almost every major city in America has a simultaneous screening. It's through my distribution company, so there's no problem with that. Chen Guang nodded and gave a thumbs up. Well done. Tang Xiaokai shook his head. Don't be too happy. It's only been 5 to 6 days since you informed me. With my capabilities, I can only do so much. Although I suddenly cut the queue and managed to get into the cinema screening, the initial publicity is basically zero. Although I've already spent a few million USD to pave the way for you, it's just a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. The time is too short, and the movie still doesn't have any influence in America. If you want to create an effect in just a few days, the publicity fees will probably be in the hundreds of millions. This is too much. Chen Guang waved his hand. It's fine. Thanks for the trouble. I'll pay you back later. Tang Xiaokai shook his head. No need. This is my personal money. Just treat it as me buying fewer cars this year. But there's a problem that's quite awkward. The premiere theater I contacted for you is called Hollywood Wuxia Theater. Chen Guang's eyes lit up. I know. I just looked it up on the internet. Not bad, young man. You're awesome. Tang Xiaokai sighed. The Wuxia Theater is awesome, but the problem is that I only got the last place, the most secluded theater, number 14. It can only hold 150 people. Number 14? Dying? That's not auspicious. What else? There's only 13 left. Damn. That's even more inauspicious. That's why the premiere of Women will probably be the ugliest premiere in history. Chen Guang shook his head. That won't be the case. There was a movie called Baby, Did You Have Breakfast Today? The premiere was held in my hometown's county cinema. Tang Xiaokai stared at him. Damn. You're too easily satisfied. You're Chen Guang. You should be more ambitious. Your intentions are too obvious. I'm even worried that you've aroused the resentment of the people in the film industry. You originally had the chance to get number 7 theater, but the person in charge of the Wuxia Theater, Donald Jostein, is unhappy with you. So the deal didn't go through. I originally wanted you to leave your name on the handprint wall, but it failed. Chen Guang shook his head nonchalantly. It's impossible for my intentions not to be obvious. Normal people wouldn't be like me and suddenly decide to try for the Olympic Games. It's understandable. Chapter 1063. You're quite open-minded. Oh, there's another problem. What is it? Logically speaking, we should get some celebrities to help promote the premiere. I've tried contacting many people before, but it was too rushed. But this was too hasty. Those with status had other plans for Christmas. Otherwise, even if it was an important family gathering, they would not be able to attend. Those who are willing to fly to Los Angeles at such an important time are not big enough. I thought it would be pointless to come, so I didn't ask them. So, Chen Guang suddenly understood. He remembered that Deng Xiaojiang had told him about the premiere in Wuxia yesterday. It was a gathering of heroes. Other than the main cast members, there were at least 20 to 30 A-list and A-list celebrities. Celebrities, politicians, and business tycoons from all walks of life could fill up half the seats in the screening hall in Yanjing. All the major media outlets were fighting for a ticket. Looking back at his side, it was like the difference between Manhattan and Chengjiegu. The scene was collapsing. Forget it, of course it's not your fault. After all, we didn't have the intention to release it globally at the beginning. I've also disrupted Big Beard's overall plan. If Tianguang Group hadn't become the major shareholder of the movie, Big Beard wouldn't have been able to change my mind. He wouldn't have gone crazy with me like this. As for whether the premiere looks miserable or not, it doesn't matter. The Oscars are about the art of the movie. This is my core advantage. I'm confident in this. Tang Xiaokai nodded. I know you're not short of money. You can earn a lot of money now. What you really care about is not the box office. But if the box office performance is too miserable, I'm afraid it will affect your next step in the Olympic Games. It's fine here in Los Angeles. With the budget you've taken out, your promotion will be everywhere tomorrow morning. But it'll be too late for other cities. The most likely situation will be that, other than here in Los Angeles, your women can only have a 3-day tour in many other cities. This is very disadvantageous. Although only a small group of people are voting, the overall box office and reputation of the movie are extremely important. This will sway other people's opinions. What if the film critics don't even have time to watch your movie and take it off the screen? Chen Guang shrugged. There's nothing we can do about it. What's done is done. We'll just have to take it one step at a time. We can't hold back our urine. Let's go to the Hollywood Wuxia Theater. I want to see how awesome this place is. Tang Xiaokai stood up as well. I don't even know where your determination comes from. Chen Guang turned around and smiled meaningfully. This is a matter of life and death. I can't be careless. I don't have a way out. Tang Xiaokai didn't know what was going on. He followed behind and asked, "Is it that serious?" Chen Guang nodded. "It's that serious." The two of them strolled all the way to the entrance of the Wuxia Theater and looked inside from afar. It was Friday afternoon, and it was still working hours, but the place was bustling with people. Chen Guang put his hands behind his back and stood under the handprint wall. He looked across the long square and sighed. It's quite extravagant. Tang Xiaokai nodded. But the more extravagant it looks, the more awkward your situation will be during the premiere next Monday. It doesn't matter. I don't care about the premiere at all. You don't even know how I can turn things around. I'll bet $5 that you've never seen a heroine before. Tang Xiaokai's face turned red. Needless to say, Chen Guang had guessed correctly. Actually, he had never seen Chen Guang acting cool before Daoist. His confidence in Chen Guang was only because of what Chen Guang had done in the past and how decisive Chen Guang was this time. Thus, he subconsciously made a judgment in his heart. Of course, he had been exceptionally arrogant and confident in front of Daoist previously. That was also because he couldn't afford to lose even if he lost. A young talent on Wall Street had to have such an imposing manner. I'm too busy. Sorry. F***CK, you really haven't seen it before. Speaking of which, cult leader Huang can leave his name on the handprint wall, but he doesn't even let me. That's a little stingy. Chen Guang pointed at a name that was a mixture of English and Chinese. It was student Xiao Ming. Tang Xiaokai shrugged. He's an A-list male star in the country, all right? He's been popular for many years. As the two of them were chatting idly, a fat figure walked down from the stairs at the entrance of the Wuxia Theater. Chen Guang followed Tang Xiaokai's gaze and looked over. There was a tall and handsome brown-haired white man beside the fat, white-haired old man. The fat old man was chatting with him with a mocking smile on his face. The brown-haired white man nodded repeatedly. There was a hint of disdain in his eyes and the corners of his mouth. The two of them laughed as they walked. After taking 2 steps, They looked up and saw Tang Xiaokai and Qin Guang not far away. Tang Xiaokai did not intend to let Qin Guang and Donald meet. In his opinion, the two of them were not the kind of people who could easily get along with others. Especially when the two of them had yet to meet, but they had already crossed swords here. Donald could not stand Qin Guang because of his own reasons. Although Qin Guang did not say anything, it was impossible for him to not feel anything after being thrown into Theater 14 and refused to leave his name on the handprint wall. Once the two of them met, it would be like Mars colliding with Earth. Not only would it not improve the situation, but it would also make things worse. However, as the saying went, whatever you fear will happen. This old man is the general manager of the Wuxia Theater, Donald Joshtan, right? Qin Guang said in Mandarin without turning his head. Tang Xiaokai nodded and said helplessly, "It's him." One tall and one short, one old and one middle-aged, one fat and one thin, and the brown-haired, middle-aged handsome Caucasian man walked closer to each other. Donald put away the smile on his face and put on a businesslike look. "Mr. Tang, this is Mr. Qin Guang, the male lead and investor of Women?" Before Tang Xiaokai could answer, Qin Guang said with his hands behind his back, "That's me, Mr. Donald." Donald's face turned cold. Although he did not like Qin Guang, how could he not know that Qin Guang was a master of all languages? How could he not know the difference between an American surname and a first name? This guy had obviously called him by the wrong name on purpose. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Guang." He gritted his teeth and returned the favor. Qin Guang pretended to be enlightened. "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Joshtan." Tang Xiaokai turned his face away quietly. He had wanted to try and smooth things over, but fortunately, he did not overestimate himself. How was he supposed to smooth things over? He felt that they should just fight in the ancient Roman Colosseum. Sigh, I hope they don't really fight. Otherwise, Donald might die. Although Donald did not like Qin Guang, he knew that there was no need to offend him too much. He would wait for Qin Guang to change his words, and he would change his words as well. "Mr. Qin, forgive me for being presumptuous, but I heard that you want to participate in this year's Oscars. Is that true? Or is it just a beautiful coincidence that you're trying so hard to get your movie released on Christmas Day?" Qin Guang nodded and smiled. "Mr. Joshtan, I know that in your heart, the Chinese are usually humble and polite. Even if I really had such a plan, I should be very humble and tell you that I don't have such unrealistic thoughts. But I'm sorry, I'm a very honest person, and I say whatever I want to say. You're right, I'm indeed here for the Oscars." Qin Guang had thought it through. Regardless of whether he admitted it or not, the people in the Western film industry were not fools. How could they not understand his intentions when they were so obvious? He would not be able to get more points if he continued to hide it, so he might as well admit it directly and tell everyone in the American Film Institute that he, Qin Guang, was here for the Oscars. Donald Joshtan did not seem surprised by his answer. His old face trembled slightly. "It's exactly as I thought. You're as arrogant as the rumors and what you've shown on the internet." Qin Guang cupped his hands. "Sorry for the disrespect. In China, this is called having a card up your sleeve and not fighting a battle unprepared. I was a little ashamed when I moved you guys from Hall 7 to Hall 14, but I'm completely at ease now. I even regret agreeing to your request to screen your movie in the Wuxia Theater." Qin Guang was not angry. "No, this will be your honor in the future, Mr. Joshtan. You might even witness the birth of a new era in the film industry. I would also like to thank you, Mr. Joshtan. I'm honored to be able to hold the world premiere in your theater, even if it's only Hall 14. Donald Joshtan knew that he had always been criticized by the people in the industry for his bad temper and being difficult to deal with. However, he suddenly felt that Qin Guang was even more despicable than people like him. He was obviously certain that he had signed the contract, and he was not willing to pay the price of going back on his word. That's right, he's here to humiliate me and the North American film industry. I really feel sorry for myself. I shouldn't have given face to the Tang Jia Foundation a few days ago. Mr. Tang, can you communicate with your friend? He's too difficult to communicate with. Donald turned his attention to Tang Xiaokai. He really did not want to chat with Chen Guang anymore. Tang Xiaokai was secretly laughing so hard that his stomach hurt. Chen Guang was ruthless. He knew that the other party was regretting it, yet he still thanked him. This was worse than scolding him directly. This guy scolded and exposed people's shortcomings without using any vulgarities. Why didn't he realize that he was so black-bellied in the past? Tang Xiaokai held back his laughter and coughed. Mr. Josh Tan, my friend Chen Guang is very polite. Is there anything wrong with what he said? Josh Tan could not take it anymore and decided to leave. He turned to the brown-haired middle-aged man beside him and said, William, I have something to attend to. I'll leave first. Talk to you another day. He did not even want to say goodbye. He had already lost his last bit of courtesy. After taking 2 steps, he held back his temper and turned back. Mr. Chin, I wish you a great premiere. Chapter 1064. He made up his mind. Originally, he had only planned to give the premiere of Women the same scale as the other movies. But the day after tomorrow he would slightly shrink the space for the others. He would give them the widest red carpet, the largest screen, and even 1/5 of the handprint wall square. At that time, the more space you take up, the more empty your booths and red carpet will look. Shameful Chinese, I will make you the biggest joke of Christmas. I will make people laugh at you in the newspapers and media. The world premiere of the desolate 14th screening hall. I have to let you know that what you do in China will not work here. After Donald walked far away, the tall and handsome brown-haired white man did not leave. Instead, he looked back at Chen Guang with great interest and said, You were talking too fast just now. I couldn't even get a word in. Let me introduce myself, William Jones. Chen Guang did not know who this person was, but Tang Xiaokai immediately remembered and introduced him to Chen Guang. Chen Guang, this is the male lead of the Sunshine Man, William Jones. He is one of the hot favorites for this year's Oscars. Chen Guang was suddenly interested and was about to speak. But William Jones' face suddenly fell. Mr. Chen, no matter whether I win the award or not, I sincerely hope that I will not see you at the award ceremony. Otherwise, I will think that it is a mockery and humiliation to me. Goodbye, oh no, it would be best if we never see each other again. After he finished speaking, he followed Donald's example and turned to leave without hesitation. Chen Guang felt that he might be afraid of being beaten to death here. Damn it, the old man had been beating the geese all day long, but now he was being pecked in the eye by the geese. The old man was the king of acting tough, but now he was being bullied by a pretentious guy. Don't stop me. I will beat the hell out of you. Calm down. Brother Guang, calm down. Weren't you very black-bellied just now? You can't lose your cool. I don't care how good your acting skills are, but you can't have any negative news about you. Otherwise, it will blow up. In the end, Chen Guang was stopped by Tang Xiaokai. Tang Xiaokai was right. This trip to the United States had brought countless black marks. It didn't matter if he didn't have any desires, but what he wanted was to be recognized by the American Film Association and become the new best actor. At that time, the negative news would be too strong, and he would be publicized as a violent maniac. He would be feared like a tiger, and he wouldn't even be able to enter other people's doors. He wouldn't even be able to see them. How would he be able to communicate with others and bribe them to his side? Forget it, there's no use beating him up anyway. Damn it, not only do I have to appear in front of him at the award ceremony, I also have to snatch the trophy from his hands. I'll piss you off to death. Chen Guang forcefully found a reason for himself to let the other party go. He was very domineering. The two of them stormed back to the Flemington Hotel. Tang Xiaokai couldn't stay here anymore. He excused himself to Chen Guang and left. Before he left, he gave Chen Guang a bargaining chip. I know you're determined to win an Oscar. To be honest, before you came here, I got some hints from some people. Many people think that it's not a bad thing if you really win an Oscar. Actually, I have a budget specially prepared for you. If your company can't hold on any longer, you can let me know. Then, Chen Guang said, I can't hold on any longer. Take it out quickly. It would be a waste not to take it. Tang Xiaokai turned around and ran, completely lacking the demeanor of a Wall Street elite. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen someone as shameless as this. You've only spent a little of the $40 million you prepared, and you still have the nerve to ask me for money? What a drug dealer. At around 1 in the afternoon, Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang both woke up. Of course, the two of them hadn't slept enough, but since they had to adjust their biological clocks, they couldn't get enough sleep during the day. The rest earlier was just to adjust their working state. The two of them first went to Chen Guang's room to report and then went out to busy themselves. Chen Guang locked himself in his room to write a book. That's right, his new book was called World School Performing Arts. It was very simple, straightforward, and shameless. He even came up with a subtitle. Shocking. The truth 7 billion people want to know. There's a fourth type of acting in the world that completely surpasses experiential, methodological, and expressive types. You're not earthling if you don't watch. Calculating the time, Chen Guang had to come up with a full set of theoretical knowledge and practical learning and application framework in 5 days. The workload was quite heavy. Since his arrival had already caused conflict in the European and American industries in advance, there was no doubt that as the publicity continued, he would become more and more conspicuous and hated. However, there was no turning back. He couldn't give up the publicity plan just because he was afraid. Otherwise, the movie would be a complete flop in North America. It would have a 3-day theatrical run and not many people would have seen it. What should he do? The senior members of the American Film Institute, who had voting rights, had never been to the cinema before. They had never heard of it. How was he going to convince them? Knock on the door of every house with a Blu-ray disc, tie people to a chair, and force them to watch it? All right, even though I have this plan, there can't be too many people. I can handle 1, 2, or 10 people, but how am I going to tie up hundreds or thousands of people? No matter what, I have to use publicity to get people into the cinema first. At least let them have a first impression. It won't be too bad, so it'll be easier to do later on. Therefore, Chen Guang knew that he couldn't do it, but he had to do it. However, he couldn't let the situation continue to develop in a direction that was disadvantageous to him. After all, if the worst situation happened, there would be no reason for him to just rely on words. He could only do what he did in the past. In this field that was difficult to quantify, he had to show his absolute strength and win everyone's respect. Before all the attention was on him, he would use this book to change the impression of some people who were prejudiced against him. He would make them doubt themselves, and in the end, they would obediently walk into the cinema. At that time, these people would have a completely different feeling when they combined this monograph with his performance in Women. Therefore, Chen Guang couldn't be careless. Either he didn't write this book, or he wrote a book that could make people kneel on the ground and sing Conquest. The old man didn't believe it. The old man's knowledge came from the devil training of the Holy Grail. He didn't use it usually because he didn't want to scare people to tears. You forced me to do this. The next day, under the operation of Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang, large posters of Women appeared on the streets of Los Angeles. It was even more crazy and thorough than when Hero and Shaolin Soccer were released in the United States. There had never been many people like him who had no bottom line and used money to open the way. Although Americans advocated freedom, they advocated US dollars more. Although there were stubborn old men like Donald Jostein, there were more businessmen in the advertising and business circles who had no bottom line. As long as you have US dollars, you can even buy my life, let alone my billboards. Although everything was prepared in a hurry, the Tianguang group that went all out brought out the strongest fighting force in history. When Chen Guang and the others took off in the Boeing 787, the Tianguang group had already started to prepare the resources for the entire supporting publicity. Fang Tianyu negotiated with several printing companies overnight and urgently contacted and paid for it in China. The freshly released electronic files of the North American version of the poster were sent from China and distributed by Fang Tianyu to printing companies one after another. The posters that were hung in countless squares and streets were beautifully made and creative. They even carried the fragrance of fresh ink. Lu Xiaoyang, on the other hand, was like a fighting chicken, waving US dollars and negotiating with one advertising contractor after another. Not only in Los Angeles, but also in the world-famous New York Times Square, there were also large posters with Chen Guang's big face printed on them. In addition to the promotion of the movie itself, Lu Xiaoyang decisively carried forward his boss's shameless style. "I don't care what you do, I just have to brag about it first." His strategy was simple and straightforward, but it was effective. He avoided the shortcomings of women itself and focused all the publicity resources on his boss alone, praising his acting skills to the skies. Women was too weak in other aspects. If they wanted to achieve the boss's goal, they could only do what he said, which was to focus all the light on him. They hoped that he could support the whole movie with his acting skills and rush for the Oscars. There were so many shameless advertising slogans that Lu Xiaoyang almost believed them. "Don't say anything. Just write the script according to what I say. I read one sentence and you write one sentence." Mistral Chen is the greatest performing artist since the 19th century. His artistic achievements are a link between the past and the future. In the past 300 years, it is impossible to find a great artist who can be compared to him. He is about to come up with a truly epic-making monograph on the performing arts, just 2 days after the movie is released. It will completely subvert the current performing arts system. Everyone, please wait and see. The poor reporter from New York Film Weekly, Bowen, was about to cry. "Mistral Lu, if I write like this, my grandma will spank my ass when I get back." Lu Xiaoyang slammed $5,000 on the table in front of him. "Take it, it's for your ass's medical expenses. My boss lacks everything but money." Bowen jumped up. "My ex-girlfriend's writing is also very hard. I'll call her immediately." Lu Xiaoyang patted him on the shoulder. "Good luck, Bowen. I like media people with attitudes like you. I have to leave now. The people from UBC are still waiting for me. You can contact my assistant for the rest of the matter. He just got off the plane and will call you in about 3 hours." With that, Comrade Xiao Lu patted his ass and left. As a former paparazzi, he had never been as generous as he was today, although his heart was bleeding when he spent $5,000. Damn, that's more than $30,000. Forget it, it's the boss's money anyway. Why would I feel any pain? Just as Lu Xiaoyang said, the follow-up team of 100 people from Tianguang Group was coming from China. In order to configure this huge team, they even borrowed many business elites who were proficient in English from Tianguang media and Tianguang culture. The battle horn of the entire group had been sounded, and no one could stay out of it. Chapter 1065. On the surface, his publicity strategy seemed to have worked very well. His crazy actions even triggered a catfish effect, causing a chain reaction on the internet in Europe and the United States. Not only did the news media and public relations companies who had taken money from the Tianguang Group, but even some celebrities in Europe and the United States who had nothing to do with him expressed their views on this matter. Celebrities in the European and American entertainment circles, whether they were in the film, television, pop music, or variety circles, all took the initiative to get involved. Although most of these people expressed that they only treated Chen Guang, the Wuxia man's shameless and crazy actions, as a joke, whether they praised or criticized him, they added a free fire to this matter. Overnight, not only in Los Angeles, but also in the entire North American online world, almost everyone knew about this matter. After UBC, the TV station that took money to do things, made a positive publicity, many TV stations immediately jumped out and fiercely attacked Chen Guang from a negative angle because he didn't take the money to do the work. The same news even crossed the Atlantic Ocean and spread to another continent, causing a big sensation in Europe. In London, Milan, Paris, Cannes, Florence, and Munich, these palaces of fashion and modern films, countless people stood up to support their film art and defend the dignity of the film industry. Chen Guang's arrogant and overly purposeful actions were like pouring molten iron into a basin of water. It instantly turned the entire film industry upside down, and the entire European and American entertainment circles were boiling. Everything was as Chen Guang had expected at the beginning. The news was basically negative. After all, there were too many angles that could be used to attack him for the Oscars with women. There were so many angles that he couldn't even count them himself. Everyone could find 10,000 reasons to express their disdain and ridicule towards him. But it didn't matter. He didn't care at all, and he didn't have the energy to care anymore. Even if it seemed that he had become the enemy of the world, he didn't care. It was just an ordinary Oscar Best Actor, which had never been his goal. How many Oscars had been held, and how many Best Actors had been born? How many people had won the Best Actor award more than once, or even 3 times? But no one had ever dared to bear the title of the world's Best Actor award. They didn't even dare to think about it or even mention it. It was precisely because the essence of the performing arts was art. It was not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. It was too difficult to quantify, and it was too difficult for people to unreservedly acknowledge it. There would always be lingering disputes. Even if it was last year's Best Actor Xiao Li, if he dared to say such words, he would immediately fall off the altar and spend the rest of his life in the ridicule and contempt of the world. If it was possible, Chen Guang also wanted to consolidate his position through a few consecutive championships. At the very least, he wouldn't attract such a terrifying criticism. Unfortunately, the heavenly Holy Grail did not give him much time. He was destined to be unable to follow the thinking and model of ordinary people to complete his career. He had to first make enemies of the whole world in order to make himself stand on the opposite side of all criticism. When the whole world is doubting me, and despising me, it is also when the whole world's attention is focused on me. Only at this moment, when I am in the center of the whirlpool, can I use my irresistible power to instantly shatter all the dark clouds covering my head. The employees of Tianguang Group knew how crazy their boss was, but with their realm and vision, they would never be able to understand where Chen Guang's madness came from. When the public opinion on the internet further spread back to the country, the negative effects even affected the promotion of the movie in the country. Gradually, voices came from Europe and America. Silently, a new concept appeared on the internet. All filmmakers and film lovers, today, when the film industry is suffering the greatest humiliation, must unite and boycott this despicable and shameless Chinese internet celebrity. What do you take the Oscars for? What do you take movies for? What do you take art for? The cabbages in your backyard? The toys you buy for babies and children? You can control everything with money? Furthermore, you're not particularly rich. Even Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, and Warren Buffett don't have such power. Who do you think you are? The son of Nike's chairman, Travis Knight, is worth tens of billions of US dollars. In order to fulfill his movie dream, he finally came up with Legend of the Magic String. He only received a nomination, but he didn't even stand on the podium. He has more money than you, has more dreams than you, and is more focused than you. Even he doesn't dare to talk nonsense like this. Who do you think you are? So what if you have great achievements in other fields? You haven't even brought out your movie. You've only acted in an outdated play, Thunderstorm. How do you have the face to fight for the Oscars? Every filmmaker, every person who loves movies. If you still have dreams, if you still have perseverance, if you don't want to see the greatest art since mankind entered the 20th century become a joke, unite. Boycott him. Reject his news. Reject his hype. Reject his topics. Even refuse to talk about him. Most importantly, you have to reject his movie. Even if he gives you a free ticket, you have to throw it into your husky's kennel. Even a husky won't watch his movie. The voices grew louder and louder, crossing the Atlantic Ocean from North America to Europe, then crossing the time difference to rush to Asia and back to China. There was also an uproar in China. People in the world always had their own opinions. Chen Guang's diehard fans, of course, spared no effort to stand up for him. But there were still all kinds of debates on the internet. Some people said that he had embarrassed himself abroad. Others said that before you scold him, look at his past, look at his achievements. What right do you have to doubt him? You don't even deserve to carry his shoes. Others said that those who say such ignorant words don't understand movies, don't understand acting, and lack a basic outlook on life. They are all brainless young people who haven't matured yet. This is the standard. If you can do it, then do it. If I can't refrigerate, then I can't scold the fridge? Others said that you just can't bear to see the Chinese struggle for their dreams. When the whole world is criticizing and mocking him, why can't we, who have the same yellow skin and black hair as him, give him a touch of warmth when the whole world is throwing cold knives at him? Even if he fails in the end, isn't his dream of becoming the first Chinese best actor in history great? People like you who don't have dreams don't have the right to laugh at his dream. Others said that you idiots only know how to talk on the internet. If you want to support his dream, then go vote for the Oscars. Do you even have the right to vote? Anyway, we originally planned to watch this movie for Jin Shiyue and Jiang Yache. But now, forget it, we can't afford to lose face. All kinds of thoughts were fermenting on the internet and in reality, boiling like a pot of thick soup. In the long history of the Oscars for nearly 90 years, there had never been a movie that had caused such a shocking criticism and rejection before it had even been nominated. Although the entertainment circle had a tradition of demonizing people, there had never been a movie that had caused such a stir. It was something that had nothing to do with people's simple lives. However, all of a sudden, in China, it had become a show of support and mockery for their countrymen. Overseas, it had become the bottom line to defend the movie. This matter had completely surpassed the scope of the movie itself. With such a terrifying wave of public opinion, even Yu Hong, Fang Tianyu, and Lu Xiaoyang, the initiators, felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. They had thought that there would be a backlash, but they had never dreamed that it would be so strong. Even if they stood on the street in Los Angeles and looked up at the sky, they could still feel the invisible pressure that filled the sky and the earth. Yu Hong stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window on the 15th floor of the Lida building in Wujing City, looking at the cars passing by. He also furrowed his brows. He didn't know what his boss, who was in Los Angeles, would think when he saw what we had done. We messed things up. Will he go crazy? Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang stood in front of the door of Qin Guang's hotel room, pacing back and forth. They didn't even dare to knock on the door, let alone report the situation to Qin Guang. The more explosive the public opinion was, the more frightened they were. However, the ugly daughter-in-law had to meet her parents-in-law. They couldn't hide it for long. Their boss was also writing an article on his computer. He liked to browse Weibo, so how could he not see the situation? Forget it. If he died, then so be it. The two gathered their courage and were about to knock on the door when Qin Guang's door suddenly opened. You two have been hanging around the door for almost 10 minutes, right? Who lost money? Did you find it? Qin Guang rolled his eyes at them. Coming quickly. If you have something to say, just say it. I'm busy here. Lu Xiaoyang and Fang Tianyu anxiously followed him. They were worried that Qin Guang would suddenly slap them in the face. Boss, we are here to report the situation. Qin Guang, who had just sat in front of the computer and took a sip of tea, put down the cup and turned around. All right, let's improve our efficiency. I just want to ask you one thing. Did you complete the things you wrote in the proposal? The two nodded at the same time. Yes, yes. Qin Guang took another sip of water. Since it's all done, what else is there to report? Let's continue with the original plan. Lu Xiaoyang took a deep breath. But boss, the situation is getting out of control. Fang Tianyu's scalp hardened. With the determination to die, he said loudly, that's right. We were too impatient for success. Everyone knows our purpose. They also know that this is your first movie. They also know the original position of the movie, heroine. The development of the public opinion is completely out of our control. Now, even if we spend $200 million, we can't suppress the negative and criticism, let alone $40 million. Lu Xiaoyang nodded heavily and almost shouted, that's right. Boss, this time, you might really have the whole world as your enemy. The whole world as your enemy. Didn't you check Weibo? Qin Guang was stunned for a moment, and then he came back to his senses. I just checked the website half an hour ago, and I thought you had something new to report. But it turns out to be this lousy matter? Lu Xiaoyang was shocked. Boss, You call this lousy matter? Chen Guang shrugged. Of course, if this isn't lousy matter, then what is? You don't say, my dad just called and scolded me. Fang Tianyu could not help but ask, "Ah? What did he say?" Chen Guang wore a fearful expression as he continued, "You've scolded me to the point that I nearly disregarded my son." Lu Xiaoyang said embarrassedly, "Uncle Chen must be joking, right?" Chen Guang returned to his calm look. That's right. He was joking. Fang Tianyu and Lu Xiaoyang looked at each other. What time was it? Boss, why are you still panting while talking? What's wrong with you? You're tuning in to the Wang Lin's Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.